Hold on. Okay. All right. I think you're live on the internet.
Woohoo! Hello, hello. You're listening to the Goggler podcast. Ian, Bahir, and Uma with you. Coming to you in a week when Taylor Swift released her re recorded version of Red, and the internet has gone crazy on Jake Gyllenhaal's ass.
Really?
Yeah, apparently so.
I haven't seen
'Cause
anything on Twitter.
he had a bad relationship 10 years ago, and they've gone. Mwah!
Are you not part of the Taylor net? I don't know.
Hey,
I'm really
I'm
not.
as much of a Swiftie as the next guy, but you know, I think maybe it's time to move on.
Hang on, wait. The next guy is me. The next two guys is me and Bahir, and I don't think either of us could be described as a Swiftie.
Oh no, nowhere near that. Yeah,
You don't know what you're missing.
I know what I'm missing, and I'm fine with it.
All right, we've got 3 new movies. Oh, well, actually, 2 new movies and a TV series to talk about this week. We're going to be talking about Anita, which is the Anita Mui documentary. Not documentary, the Anita Mui biopic that
Yes.
is in cinemas right now. We're also going to be talking about Tick Tick Boom, which is the Lin-Manuel Miranda directorial effort, his first movie as director.
It's a second. I think it was a short or something. I didn't click on the link on IMDb because I was going to put that in the show notes
really?
to say directorial debut, but he did direct something else, which I
Did he?
didn't
Well-
write down.
But everyone's calling it his debut.
Maybe it's his feature
Well,
debut.
Feature debut.
Yeah.
Probably feature debut. And we're going to be talking about Netflix's long-awaited adaptation of Cowboy Bebop. All of that's coming your way. But first, just a quick note. We have partnered up with the good folks at UIP to give away some James Bond goodies in collaboration, in conjunction with No Time to Die. So that's happening for the next 10 days. All you have to do is go to goggler.my, log on, click on the link, and then find out how you can win. You can just answer 3 simple questions, and you can win all of this fancy stuff like Aston Martin keychains, not actual Aston Martins, speakers
Yeah.
with No Time to Die on it, like a backpack, lots of cool
I mean,
shit.
the roll top backpacks looks cool.
Looks pretty cool, right?
Yeah, just like black on black. It's great.
We didn't get any ourselves, but
Obviously
No, we
not.
don't.
No, but I'm surprised you didn't come up with no time to listen to music on bad speakers and so on. Links for this. No time to charge your phone, put it on the charging deck. No time to carry my shit in my hands.
Well, the competition runs for a week, so
Yeah.
we've got time.
We'll workshop this. This isn't. We'll do a do-over. Okay, take 2. Wait, this isn't live, right?
we'll workshop some puns.
We'll work
Why
some
not?
funds. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
So yeah, log on to goggler.my, win yourself some swag, and don't forget to catch No Time to Die in cinemas next Thursday, 25th of November. Yes, it's a little late in Malaysia, but it's definitely worth catching on the big screen.
Yep.
We've also got some news to talk about. Before we get into it, at the last minute, Bahir found something on the internet. What did you find?
Yeah. At the last I think the trailer dropped. I think maybe a couple of days ago. But A24 is doing this.
I'm in.
It's A24. I mean, there it is. Yeah, exactly. Right. There it is. Yeah. So they're doing this. They're doing this thing called. They're releasing a film called The Beach.
Not that one.
No, yeah, you're right. It just occurred to me. On their sort of online screening room, you can just sign up and buy a ticket. It's $6. But let me read out what sort of really caught me. This Thanksgiving, the A24 screening room invites viewers to spend a week at the beach in a new kind of sensory viewing experience that transcends traditional television. So I mean, I'm intrigued. They'll be running the film on a loop beginning the 25th 24th, 23rd, I think.
Wait,
for
is
a
it the
week.
same film on a
The
loop?
same film was going to play for on a loop.
But this is the guy in the hut, right?
This is the
Yes.
guy in the hut.
Yeah, I think I
Yes.
saw this trailer a while ago, and then I was like, I assumed it wouldn't be available worldwide.
Yeah, so it's available worldwide.
Okay, because it was
on
just
the
like
screening room.
it was just him hanging out in this hut, and the camera just following him around. I don't know.
Yeah. So like if you read the cast, I can't remember his name, but he's also the director. So the cast is him, 2 chickens, and a mud crab. So I'm like,
I reckon the mud crab did it.
Actually,
but even the trailer.
On the trailer
trailer
that
is
you
interesting,
sent, Bahir, the first comment in YouTube just perfectly sums it up. Some guy just wrote, "Why is it on every A24 production? It looks like there's a demon lurking underneath."
So yeah, I mean, I'm signing up. It's available worldwide. A24 screening room, $6, 30 ringgit. Why not?
You know something's gonna happen on the last day, right?
I'm hoping something does. Yeah,
I mean,
they'll play the same movie on a loop for 5 days, but then the last one suddenly there's like a different cut.
Yeah, I mean, what would be the point of doing Big Brother with one guy, 2 chickens, and a mud crab? It's not really going to be that interesting. But because there's no one else in it. But from what I've seen, it's just him in his hut waiting for people to turn up to sell them stuff. Like he just lives there. I can't remember. Does he surf? Because I think I saw it a while ago.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't. I think he catches fish.
He does something. He doesn't just sit there waiting all. It's not him sitting on a stool all day, but he does do.
Yeah.
He does
He
seaside
do stuff,
activities.
Yes. So I'm curious. I mean, $6. I'm game. I'm signing up.
God knows I love A24. It seems like the only place you can go to right now to do experimental shit like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even the experimental shit don't feel like experimental shit. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't. It's not that super out there artsy stuff.
Well, we haven't seen Lamb yet, have we?
No.
But even Lamb doesn't feel like it's super out there.
It feels more accessible than.
Yeah, it feels experimental, but accessible experimental, I guess, in some ways.
It's just when you started talking about the A24 like franchise properties, I immediately started thinking about like when do we get the A24 branded Smash Brothers? Because we've already had the Nickelodeon one where you can play as SpongeBob and dog cat, whatever it is. But like, I want to be Florence Pugh from Midsommar versus the lamb from Lamb.
Oof, that'd be great. Yeah. So I just thought I'd bring that up.
So I think I don't have a news klaxon because apparently I don't know how to do that. But red alert.
Nice. So $6, yeah, Bahir? Okay, I will.
Yes.
I feel like that's a good investment.
It feels like a good investment, yeah.
It's called The Beach. It's available on A24's screening room. Check it out. Let us know if you're as crazy as we are. All right, in news, the 4th season of Star Trek Discovery dropped in the US today. I got a notification on my phone. I was super excited. And then we find out that nope, CBS is gone. You can't get it international markets. No more Netflix for you.
Yeah.
No Discovery, no Star Trek. We're going to roll out Paramount Plus at some point in the future. So until then, no Star Trek for you.
Yeah.
What the fuck, CBS? Come on.
I think I'm with Ian. Like when he got when I think you shared the news, and then Ian's just like, no, I'm done with Star Trek. And I'm like,
fuck this, like 25 years.
I'm out. I'm done. Yeah. I think
longer. 43 years of watching. I was going to wear my Trek jersey, but I'm wearing an accidental Trek jersey. I was going to wear my engineering outfit from fucking TNG, but I couldn't. The tears were too much. But this is just. Well, it's Star Trek on Paramount is the Twitter handle, right? That's what they call it. Star Trek on Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
And this is just another step in them being just too focused on the US markets. Like every Trek day or any announcement of everything, you have to wait half a day for someone to rip it and put it up somewhere else because they always geo-lock it to the US. As if somehow you can stop the signal. Like to paraphrase
Serenity.
You can't stop the signal. It's like once it's out there, it's out there. You got to capitalize on having worldwide things. The Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, they actually put out a tweet at one point. I saw someone complaining about it. It's like, oh, who cares about what time it is? But actually, it was helpful because we knew it was coming out on a certain time, but we didn't know like that time was going to be US centric. Will we get in the morning? Will we get in the evening? And they actually just had times for Singapore, for everywhere else. So we were able to figure out exactly when it was going to go live. And it's just
Absolutely.
it's a global market these days. And if you're not going to cater to that, then why should we do recap episodes and podcasts?
And you know what? It's not even that. It's you want my money. I mean, you want my fucking money,
and you were getting a portion of it already.
Yeah, and if you're not gonna bring it to me, I mean, I know it feels like, first world problems, but that's what we hear. That's what we talk about. Right? We talk about films,
but it's not really first world problems because this is symbolic of a production company or a studio that's so woefully out of touch. When people like Netflix and Apple TV Plus and all of these other, I guess, new modern streamers are trying to approach it in the right way. And even someone like Sony Pictures knows Spider-Man is a global release, there's a global market. They know that the vast majority of their money comes from the global box office.
Yeah.
And they're catering to that. But CBS and Paramount, this has always been a problem. When Discovery launched a few years ago, and they announced that they were partnering with Netflix to bring it globally, they wouldn't give any of the marketing materials until after the episode had dropped in the US. That's how ridiculous and protective they were over that. Yeah. So I remember when we were doing reviews and stuff, we couldn't get images because we had to wait for a new episode to drop first. Because back then, I remember we were doing like those weekly recap podcasts, and it was nuts. And
even
the
last
season. Yeah, but what's ridiculous is then they complain, right? Because whenever they release a movie, they're like,
nobody watches it. Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be doing well in global markets. Yeah, dude, because you've got all these TV shows that serve a purpose. They build up hype. They suck people into this world. And then you go, nope, sorry, can't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course your movie's not going to do well.
It's completely short-sighted thinking. I mean, and the TV side of things is doing fine, but it's like not knowing where it's going to be, not knowing when. They say January 22 it's going to roll out into places that are getting Paramount Plus, which I think is Europe and the UK, right?
Yeah, I think Europe's next. Yeah.
Not the rest of
not the rest of us is like, you had a deal in place. You're literally taking content away from us. You couldn't divorce. Maybe like I haven't checked. Maybe they're trying to do something where they have to cancel the overall deal in order to set up a sub deal, because like like they had Netflix outside the US. It's on some other channel in Canada, but now UK will have their own Paramount channel, so they can't have it on that and Netflix. Maybe that's something like that. But if there is something like that, they should say that. But what they've said is just bullshit.
But even then, even when I think it sort of, what really sort of smacks the lack of interest in the international market is when you have Discovery on Netflix, but then Picard and Lower Decks is on Prime.
Yeah,
Amazon Prime. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like I have to sign up to two different services to watch your single content. It just feels really stupid.
But I mean, that was the thing, is like, it was available. Taking it away now is shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, the Seinfeld and Friends ping pong across all these platforms as things go on. Like, content is. I saw today that there's a game called My Friend Pedro, I think it was. It's an Xbox. It was a game on Xbox Game Pass, and I played a little bit of it, and because it was, whenever I see this game is leaving next month, I get massive FOMO, and it's like, oh my god, maybe this is amazing. So I play it for a week or two, and then I'm like, will I buy it or not? And I usually don't end up buying those. But it's coming back on Game Pass.
Right.
So it left the service and it's coming back. We've seen that happen with other streamers. But to actually just take it and have no replacement is stupid and underheaded, and...
But that's the problem, right? And then you talk about piracy as well. You complain about piracy. When you make things accessible, there is a bigger chance that people are going to pay to watch it.
And they're screwing over other franchises, because it's the franchise, they called it at one point, right? The franchise is the Star Trek, because it's lasted so long. It's been going longer than Star Wars. You know, I'm not going to be interested in any Eagle Moss models for Discovery Season 4 because I can't see them. I don't got to be bothered, you know?
Yeah.
And also, it's not like there's evidence to the contrary. I mean, we've seen what Disney Plus have done with Marvel and all of that stuff, and how they've approached the global market and actually paid some attention to the global market, right?
Yeah.
I mean, even if you look at, like, we're going to be talking about it in a little while, but the movie Anita, which is about Anita Mui was very big in Malaysia, and I think if you go to Starling right now, they've got all of these, like, there's a guy who does these dolls and stuff, and they've got it on display. And, that's the kind of I guess, movie adjacent stuff that
Yeah.
we hardly ever get in Malaysia. Whether it's for a
Yeah.
sci-fi thing, whether it's for Anita, but in the US, if there's a new Star Trek movie, suddenly there'll be a Star Trek exhibition in a museum, and
Yeah.
they do all of this stuff to kind of build around the fan base and get people excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yet, in countries like ours and in global markets, they just think that, oh, we've put it out there, of course the audience will come. No, they won't.
Yeah.
They're not.
And I
They're
mean-
not interested unless you make them interested.
I think it's quite interesting as well. I was kind of hoping that over COVID and as it opens up now, that people, that the American entertainment industry would realize that there's potentially some a market over here, because it's weird. In the last 2 years of lockdown, I've actually watched more concerts than I have the 2 years prior to that.
Like real
Because a
concerts.
lot of-
'Cause you watch them.
Yeah, because they were doing a lot of like live streams,
Virtual,
and I
yeah.
pay for that. Like I paid for the Incubus live stream of the 20th edition of their Morning View concert. I watched that.
Really?
Fleet Foxes did one. Yeah, and it was just like, I would pay for that content, right? I know those bands are almost never going to come to our shows.
Right.
Or they'll maybe come once every 5 years potentially, right? But
Incubus love it here, haven't they? They've come here loads, haven't they?
yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They've come here quite a few times. Yeah.
Yeah, Fleet
But
Foxes, I don't
just-
think so though.
Yeah, I just think that there's that opportunity, right? Like,
Yeah.
I would pay, make it available.
Even
It's
Amazon
like-
Prime is like, hey, we don't really know what region you're in, so here's all this Indian content, just because.
Because
Exactly.
you're in Asia.
Yeah.
I guess
and-
you're Asian.
Yeah, and it's the same with Netflix. If you set the movies by chronological and you scroll, there's that period where they had one movie of their own a month when you go back a couple of years, and they hadn't
Yeah.
actually bought any other producers' movies, so there was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
like lots and lots of Indian content. But it's a rising tide, like raises all boats. I had a look at the beginning of the Tiger King, and maybe they were being more focused on America, but they talked about, like, it starts with March 19th, 2020, I think, or whenever the episode launched, and saying how they tied it into the pandemic. Like, its popularity was because people were at home, stuck at home, watching stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We're still stuck at home. We would still like to boldly go. We still want to experience infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And for keepers of the torch to miss it so much, it's like,
Yeah.
we're in the neutral zone now, or we're Klingon Romulan space. It's like, you're outside the Federation. The Federation is the US when it comes to merch and stuff like that, and it's exhausting.
It is, and you know what? It's incredibly antagonistic towards the audience as well. And what you said earlier about, hey, yes, it's true. They're probably thinking when we launch Paramount Plus in Europe, in Asia, we don't want to be stuck with what happened to Disney, where they had to put out the movies and take it away for 3 months and put it out again. And for me, I'm like, you know what? That's not a big deal. That's not too much of a problem. It's flipping a switch on a computer, right?
How often do you watch a show that came out last year? Or
Rarely.
season 4 of a show that came out last year?
Yeah, exactly.
So when this comes alive, it's not going to be, the only thing that comes to mind is this is actually going to give me time now to catch up on The Orville. Because that's on Disney Plus.
Fantastic
Yeah.
show, by the way.
They added it, so I didn't get to
Yeah.
finish season 2, so I'm gonna watch that now instead.
Yeah.
That's how I'm gonna get my Star Trek fix,
And-
because Disney have it. They said, hey,
Yeah.
we got this catalog, we're gonna give it to you.
Yeah, and I think it's that thing of like, and you're right, Ian. If Paramount Plus suddenly drops in Malaysia next year or 2 years from now, most likely, and at which point Discovery is probably season 5 or something.
No, it's cancelled
I'm
by
like,
that point. They'll have given up.
If they haven't, right? For me, the thing is like, I'm a year behind. Fuck it, I'm not gonna go back into it.
Yeah.
Screw it. I don't.
And that's
I'm
the thing.
not that into it.
And that's the thing. There is no timeline for Malaysia.
Yeah.
No, of course not.
Is there one for
No, of course
Singapore?
not.
I don't know. There's no Paramount Plus in Singapore. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about anything outside the UK and Europe. So it's just
Yeah.
a massive fuck you to all the diversity they put in their show.
So we said, fuck you, Star Trek.
Bad form.
Yeah.
Bad form, CBS.
Not since Nemesis have I said fuck you, Star Trek. It's been a while.
Nemesis. All right. Moving on from Star Trek to Star Wars. This one we kind of saw this coming. just based on everything that kind of Kathleen Kennedy has been doing. They announce something and then they go, oh wait, it's on the back burner. Oh wait, it's not happening at all. And now it's hit both Rogue Squadron and the untitled Ryan Johnson Star Wars project. Also, I think inside sources are saying creative differences.
One
I also
website is
think-
saying inside sources, so
Yes, that's true.
It's
One-
one place I've never heard of.
Although-
It is he's an ex-editor of the Hollywood Reporter, but this is the first
Although-
story I've heard from this news outlet.
I think Ryan Johnson is just counting all his Knives Out money and going, suckers! I don't need no
Fine,
Star
I'm
Wars.
done, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Netflix threw all of this cash at me.
Yeah.
But actually, we spoke about it a long time ago when Rise of Skywalker was coming up, but we kind of predicted that after the fan response to Last Jedi and after the kind of retconning they did in The Last Skywalker, which is honestly quite insulting to whatever Ryan Johnson did in the previous movie, it felt like they were trying to distance themselves from that idea. Since we heard nothing after the fact that it was announced that he was in charge of a trilogy or at least one other movie.
I think it was trilogy, yeah.
But also, they also, if they look at it, they do a proper lessons learned. Like, no one's talking. The only thing you hear about Rise of Skywalker is people complaining about it. No one talks about, like, there's no plans for the continuing adventures of Daisy Ridley and Finn and everything like that. And, like, that would be, like, the whole point of getting a young cast is so you can do more adventures and more other things and spin-offs and have them all turn up and cross-pollinate. And it's like, no, they screwed the pooch on that one. And at least with the people were arguing over The Last Jedi, but people were talking about The Last Jedi.
They were, absolutely. It incited some kind of a strong reaction, right?
Yeah.
People were mostly ambivalent to the Rise of Skywalker. It's actually the only Star Wars movie that I have seen only once.
Ooh.
I just couldn't be bothered. I was just like, whatever. But I was genuinely excited about a Rogue Squadron movie. Like,
yes,
I remember those books that came out back in the 90s. I think there were X-Wing Rogue Squadron books.
Yeah, with
I
Wedge and
used to
Tilly's.
love those books with Wedge and Tilly's. Yeah, exactly. I used to love those books. And that would have been, I mean, when they announced that felt like, it felt like Mandalorian because it felt like something that was going, like the Obi-Wan series is obvious, right? It's still building on the same Skywalker arc.
Yeah, it's obvious, but it's also like, please don't. It's like,
Yeah.
unless it's just him playing tiddlywinks in the desert, and every so often he looks over his binoculars and the baby Luke is throwing up on himself in the corner or something. Just have it like that.
And then a probe droid pops up and he goes, boom. All right, we're safe.
Bam, done. Kill that dream. But
I don't know.
I rewatched I went back. I'm not sure. I couldn't find it on the Star Wars YouTube page, but I did find it on the IGN page. The Rogue Squadron release trailer that Patty Jenkins did, the teaser trailer, which
That was cool.
it's again.
They must have scrubbed it.
I'm wondering if they did. If
They fucking scrubbed the internet for that shit.
It's been removed from the archives. But I watched it again, and this sucks because it's so heartfelt. I'm watching that trailer when she pulls back, she's taking her rollerblades off. When the camera pulls back and she puts on the helmet and pulls up the orange jumpsuit and walks towards that X-wing, it is just chef's kiss. It's amazing, and you're thinking like, I don't care about the books. I never really played the N64 game or anything like that. So I just like the idea of Rogue Squadron, as far as I remember, was they are basically they're agents of the New Republic, right? They're basically they're James Bond with a cooler car, with a space car, because they can go anywhere and fix anything, right? They don't just stay in the X-wings. It's just they can go anywhere in the universe. They do also do on foot missions, as they would say in Grand Theft Auto, right? So that idea, and she says like she wanted to, her father's history, and she wanted to do the baddest, or most amazing. The greatest fighter pilot movie of all time. That's all she was trying to do. And this report says there was arguments with like some of the VPs at Lucasfilm. And I can understand we're going to get different sides of that. And the insiders could be Patty Jenkins using a voice thing. Because she's just like, I need more fucking time to finish Wonder Woman. Because they have, the announcement is they're rescheduling it. I'm just very critical or very circumspect because it's one source from one website that we've never heard of before.
Yeah. However, that said, it always begins with a reschedule, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they always start things out by saying, actually, it's on the back burner. They're still developing. They're rescheduling it. They're moving the date that we've booked. It's canceled.
And I mean, there's a classic Hideo Kojima, is it Hideo Kojima or Shigeru Miyamoto quote, which is that like, what is it? A delayed game. You can always delay a bad game, but you can never unmake it or unrelease it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, like, if they're thinking, like, how do we avoid the issues that we've had with Solo or with Rogue One, because like when we think about Rogue One, we like Rogue One, but by all accounts, the production of that was a nightmare near the end. Like it was too long. It made a mess. Tony Gilroy changed things around. That's why there's those
Tons
weird
of
hints of
reshoots.
stuff.
Yeah.
We never got to see the beautiful cloak in the water shot.
Yep.
And it's like, take the time if it needs to be, and if you have commitments to do Wonder Woman, do that fine. But come on, let her do her awesome fighter pilot movie.
But also,
Unless it's something like, and also Jabba the Hutt's a pilot. Maybe that is just something weird she has in there that they have to try to argue over.
I think they haven't quite decided what to do with the films yet. I think that's why we keep getting all of these announcements about new Star Wars TV shows, because with the success of Mandalorian, and it seems like Filoni and Favreau are running that joint.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It feels like a very DC approach, right? In the sense that just like what they've done with Berlanti and said, "Oh, you're doing really well with the TV, keep doing that."
Yeah.
But the movie side of things haven't gotten their house in order. And I think the only thing film related is we know that there is a Feige Star Wars movie with the guy who wrote Loki penning the script. That's all we know.
And what Kevin wants, Kevin gets.
Yeah. And, I think he's earned that. So maybe he might make a great Star Wars movie. Who knows?
But I guess that's the thing, though. When it comes to Filoni and the others on the TV side of things, they're showrunners on those. You've ever listened to Kevin Smith talk about the times he has directed in the Berlanti verse, and it's like, it's a well-oiled machine. He's just like, maybe move the camera back a bit. That's fine. Look, everyone knows what they're doing, and there's an element of that to it. I guess with establishing the universe of the Mandalorian, maybe there's a bit more leeway on that. But I know that first season is weird. That theme never stops being out there for what you think you're going to get for Star Wars, and a lot of the quiet moments in that first season.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a movie and the budget's going to be that much bigger, and then I don't know the risks and the fear of the backlash, I guess, is what they're worried about. I mean, they've also extended Kathleen Kennedy's contract for 3 years, another 3 years, right?
Yeah.
So everyone's obviously happy. Shareholder value is through the roof.
No, but I think for me the big thing is that I wish they would stop making these grand announcements and then canceling these shows.
Yeah.
It just feels like really bad marketing moves.
No, but the grand announcements are to manipulate the stock price, right? Because if they come out and they give you an iPhone that is pretty much the same as last year's iPhone, everyone's going to be like, "Oh no, it's boring," and the stock price drops. So they need to keep pushing stuff out, whether
especially it comes
it's
to
in
the
development stages or whether it's absolutely nothing at all.
When is it? End of the first quarter, into the second quarter, when they have the investor calls usually, and that's when people announce shit that might never happen.
Yeah. I mean, remember the DC lineup, dude? Remember the DC lineup? They announce fucking VVS, and then they announce like 20 other movies.
That's true.
At the same time, of which I think Justice League is the only one that has happened. Oh, and Wonder Woman. Everything else kind of fell through.
No, but I think for me, it's just this thing of like, they make such a big deal about, we've got the guys from Game of Thrones to write a Star Wars movie. We've got,
but by all accounts,
Rian Johnson.
By all accounts, that just feels like, the eye of Sauron, that, they were weighed and found wanting. You know what I mean? It was like it's the same with like maybe the rumors about Colin Trevorrow in the last Star Wars movie were just like maybe, he just couldn't, whether he didn't stand up to his bosses on Fantastic Four strongly enough or in the right way to make everything work. I mean, there's issues there. And maybe with these guys as well, everything, maybe they saw their scripts for those, was it Paley Center talks where they just sound like a couple of fucking chuckleheads who accidentally walked into the biggest show on television. And then once
just stumbled onto it.
Yeah. And once they had to, add to it with their own material, they were like and screwed it up.
Yeah. I guess. I just find it really annoying that they make such a big, like, they shot a Kathleen Kennedy trailer and then maybe
Patty Jenkins trailer.
Patty Jenkins,
Patty Jenkins, and maybe we won't do this. It just feels.
That's why I said I was like looking at it. It's so good, that trailer. It's like the music everything swells at the right time. And you're like, I haven't seen this in a while. Just watching that. Oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
There's a bigger question as well. Like, given how cinematic all of these TV shows are, what is then the distinction between the films and the TV shows, right? And I think we are seeing that distinction with the Marvel stuff. Like after watching Black Widow and Eternals, maybe even like based on the Spider-Man trailers, it looks like yes, that is a $200 million movie as opposed to a $5 or $10 million episode. The TV shows still feel a lot more intimate, and so maybe that's something they're still trying to work out, because it may feel intimate, but it still looks like Mandalorian looks like a 10-hour movie, right? I mean, it's beautiful. It's incredible. Like you can't make that distinction anymore between, oh, this belongs on cinema or this is on TV. And maybe they're still trying to work that out. What is the story that you want to tell in 2.5 hours on the big screen, as opposed to 12 episodes in a TV show?
But that's the thing. We're past the shock and awe now. Like
exactly.
We've seen Falcon and Winter Soldier. We've seen 2 episodes of Hawkeye. We've seen The Mandalorian. Is like The Mandalorian was the first live action Star Wars TV show. Straight out of the gate, you have to put something in there. But 5 years time, they're going to be like, let's just do Cheers in the Cantina where it's a single set, because the whole point of television is it's cheaper than making a movie.
Yeah.
You want to have reuse. I mean, you could reuse sets until someone points that out to Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and they're like, "All right, hey, wait, they're making money off us reusing these sets. Let's blow up the Razor Crest. Fuck it."
No, but I think as well the bigger question here for the Star Wars universe is, what the fuck do they do now, right? It literally is, what the fuck do they do now? I mean, they've kind of quietly announced. I think they've kind of quietly announced that the Skywalker saga is over with the 9 films.
No, they were pretty loud when that was coming out. They were like, this is the end of the Skywalker saga, as if to say, we're not going to piss all over this grave anymore. We're going to move on to whole new, unspoilt graves to piss on.
We're gonna kick other dead
Cassian Andor.
Yeah. No, but again,
he literally a dead guy. They're bringing him back to life.
He's an actual dead guy.
Boskin Dengar on the road.
But that's kind of the question, right? Like, the TV series is still, they're still spin-offs of essentially the Skywalker saga,
Yes.
They're still characters around that universe. They're still based around, or the characters that have come out of that one universe. In Cassian Andor's case, it's characters that have come out of a universe that's out of a universe. But what do the films do now? Where do they go? Are we still talking about, like the comics, do you go to the High Republic? Do you go past that?
Yeah.
Do you go before that, right? What do you do now? I think that's the question that Kathleen Kennedy really has to sort out for Star Wars.
But on that, I think they've done a good job of actually, like, they've proven they can come up with good characters, and they can come up with people. Like, Finn and Rey were great in those 2 movies they were in. Poe Dameron is completely wasted in, like, the second half. I mean, the rumor was he was supposed to die in the first one, but they've proven they were able to take new characters and get kids to get them on their t-shirts.
Yeah, and the other interesting thing is, I think a couple of days ago I watched the Disney Plus special on Boba Fett, Under the Helmet, and the guy's got 6 minutes of screen time in the original film. It's just like
no disintegrations.
I think he had 3 lines. I think something like that. Yeah, that was one of the lines. But for him to then now be what Temuera Morrison's doing with the Book of Boba Fett, that single look of the character, and then the cartoon that nobody in Malaysia probably has ever seen. Yeah, this is kind of the point. They've got, like you say, Ian, they've got great characters. They create great characters with great names, and that's kind of what they should do.
I'm still having trouble getting through all of the Bad Batch. It's just sometimes I watch it, it's a bit slow, but then I remember that's actually Rhea Perlman. This is Cheers in Space. But there is a podcast called, I was going to say The High Republic, a More Civilized Age, and they're just watching the Clone Wars, but they analyze it way too much. Like there's one episode that's not a clone camp and everyone's white, and it's like scary how white that planet is, and it just shows the biases of the people making the show, but also shows they didn't have the budget to make more actual character models because it's all 3D animated, and you can see the differences as the shows go on. They do 2 or 3 episodes at a time, and they literally talk about, they end up tying it into how much of the show is tied into the Gulf War of that era, whichever one it was. And I'm getting a lot more out of that than I would if I'd actually just watching the shows. But that is where that Boba Fett comes from. But did you see, I'm not sure if it's in that Boba Fett show, but it was a tweet that was going on, I think I might have sent it to you guys, where it was just Temuera Morrison goofing around on the set of Attack of the Clones. Yeah. And it's a delight. Like, I mean, most of it is that everyone at Lucasfilm was like, this guy's amazing. We should do something with him. Like,
Yeah.
we should do everything, like literally everything he's in. He's in all the clones, everything else, and it's just him goofing around on set in the Jango Fett outfit and stuff like that. And it's taking all this
Right.
time, but he loves doing it, and it's identifying that, and it builds on top of what Jeremy Bulloch did. But it wasn't what Jeremy Bulloch did. It was what Joe Johnston did, because of the design. It's just
Exactly.
it's a boiler suit
And-
with some cool stuff.
It's identifying those characters, it's knowing how to exploit them,
Yeah.
and use them to create some sort of value for the audience, right? And we've seen them do it really, really well in the MCU. We've seen them do it really, really well in Star Wars, right? I mean, just looking at the novels, the board games, the video games, all of the stuff that comes out, it has an audience. It actually performs rather well. And yet, with the films seem to be the tricky proposition, because I think they demand too much from these films.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Every film has to be an event. Every film has to mean something, because I think they feel like those first 3 movies in particular, completely shifted the course of our creative conversation. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think every film director of our generation will probably cite one of those movies as an inspiration point, right?
Yeah.
And so somehow they feel the weight of that. Meanwhile, maybe a TV show still is a little more dispensable. I don't know.
And I think that would be.
And if you fuck up, no one knows. Like, if it's like Disney Plus is like, well, it's doing well, it's doing numbers, as opposed to no one went to Star Wars movie this weekend.
Yes, it only made $400 million instead of $1 billion, right? Yeah.
But again, just give me Bosk and Dengar on a road trip comedy. That'd be great. Or a heartfelt workplace comedy about a load of droids. No, and there's no English. It's just robots just making
robots.
noises at each other.
Yeah. BB-8 and R2-D2, the odd couple. Come on.
A romance with a toaster droid. Love it.
All right. I'm sure more news will trickle out about what's going on with Star Wars films, and we will be here to talk to you about it when it does. But now let's talk some movies. Anita is a brand new biopic that is now out in cinemas. It is, of course, about Anita Mui, the legendary cantopop singer. Had many fans in Hong Kong and China, obviously, but also in our part of the world. She performed in Malaysia, Singapore many times. This one is directed by Longman Leong. It stars newcomer model Louise Wong as Anita Mui, who is a spitting image at times in this film. It is frightening. And it
just jump ahead, so I use all my slides up super fast. Just go ahead and do that.
It is pretty much a cradle to grave biopic, and her story, she wins a national televised singing contest, and her career kind of skyrockets from that point. She tragically passes away in 2003 because she had cervical cancer. 2003 was a very, very bad year for cantopop, because it's the same year where her best friend Leslie Cheung, who you will know from Days of Being Wild and A Better Tomorrow and Farewell My Concubine, he committed suicide in that same year as well. And I saw her perform in concert in Malaysia, 2002.
What? Whoa.
Yeah, 2002. I mean, I obviously don't understand any Cantonese, but her songs were huge. And actually, her songs were huge, but also I know her from a ton of movies too, because Rouge is one of them with Leslie Cheung. But also, she's been like in Jackie Chan movies and Tony Leung movies, and she was fucking huge. I saw this movie at a public screening. I know you guys went to the press screening, but I couldn't make it for that. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, the movie has its flaws, but I think going in and watching it as a fan, it was a very emotional experience. And my biggest problem with the movie is that it felt a little unfocused, and that they're trying to cram, like, you could make a movie out of her relationship with Leslie Cheung. Their friendship could be a movie in itself. Her relationship with her sister could be a movie in itself, right? Her film, like the kind of shit that she did in film and the kind of taboos that she broke in her music and singing could be a film in itself.
It should be an Ip Man style series.
Yes. But this movie felt like it wanted to hit every single point and cram it within 2 hours in 15, 20 minutes?
Unfortunately, it felt like a 2-hour montage, right? Because there was so many things. They jumped from A to B to C to D. And I think, like you said, the thing about 2003 was quite interesting, because the movie never really sort of settles in on the fact that both those events happened in the same year. It didn't, to me, it didn't feel like it, at least. I think because so much happened, right? Because she then did the concert, and it was during the swine flu thing. It was
SARS,
just
not swine flu.
SARS. Sorry, SARS. Yeah, and I think it was just. Oh, it just felt like a 2-hour montage. I think it really felt like a 2-hour montage.
It's a little bit of connected dots in that they want to hit all these points, but at some point that causes it to actually fall down as a movie. There's a point near the ending of it where she's talking with Eddie, who is her stylist mentor, friend guy, and she's talking about, that first time we went to Tokyo and you dressed me, that was the first time you dressed me when I went to the Tokyo competition and you fixed my scarf. It's like, would have been nice if we'd seen that.
Especially because you mentioned it, right? And I think
it's the same with the bad girls thing.
Also, just like we were talking about it after we left the cinema, Ian, the thing about her godfather being such a big part of her life, you go like,
the guy who's
he
in
was
two
only
scenes.
in it for 5 minutes in the film.
He's in two scenes and he's not introduced the first time. But the first time we walked out was like, yeah, it was good, it was interesting. Yeah, I didn't know much about her. Yeah, very, very sad story. Who the fuck were all those people in her house?
Or like the guy she runs to Thailand with. You go like,
yeah, he doesn't get much of an intro.
Actually, that's a very interesting thing as well. Like, obviously, she had these very private love affairs, and in this movie, they seem to allude to the fact that her Japanese lover was the most important one to her, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure where, like, I haven't read enough about her, but I've read quite a lot of articles throughout, I guess, her career and life. And I'm not sure where they picked up that piece of information from, but to return to that at the end of the film felt like, wait, why are you putting so much weight on this guy?
I thought that worked, but I wasn't quite sure what they were trying to say with his, like, the message that she decoded as well, which is that, like, was he saying, I wouldn't be doing right by her if I asked her to come out because she doesn't speak Japanese and I would be making her look bad and I'm not that kind of man? Or is he saying she would be a reflection badly on me? It wasn't quite clear what the message there. But that stuff as well as like agencies controlling actors and singers. There's a story with I don't know if you heard that PlayStation game Judgment or Judge Eyes it's called in Japan. They're not making any more of those with the current. They have an actor. It's an offshoot of the Yakuza series, but they have a separate They have an actor in it who's a real life actor who plays the main character.
Right.
They don't want it on PC because people could take the model and do stuff with it, not realizing they can do that with every other version anyway. So the Sega's just can't continue with him. They have to find someone else who won't have it. And it's because his agency says, no, we don't want anyone tarnishing his image.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like whenever you see any Korean press conference for any K-drama, it is the most tightly controlled few minutes in the history of like cinema or television, right?
But that week, I think we see Eternals that week as well, Bahir? Same week, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so I think that Michael Chang was going for a 2 for that week, but he was the one who explained to me on Twitter that the guys in the house were her proteges, that she was like, I guess, paired with by the record company, and the 3 guys she's talking to at the end is a group known as Grasshopper.
Right.
But again, none of that's in the movie.
Yeah. Oh no, you have to fill in all of those blanks with your own knowledge.
It's like watching Endgame without watching the previous 20 movies.
Right, exactly. Because I think there's a lot there that is left unsaid that should have been said. I mean, they talk about her charity work, which she does a lot of.
Yeah.
But actually, the protege thing is a very important thing because she spent a lot of her time training up the next generation of singers and performers. I mean, there's a throwaway line in the beginning of the film when she gets a phone call, and Eddie
from someone
goes,
who like a lot of the movie, I'm just like that meme of like,
who's that?
I don't know her.
Hey?
Like I don't know. I've never heard her. I'm sorry, who?
But yeah, and Eddie goes, it is normal for the old timers to mentor the youth, right?
Yeah.
And you get that idea that she's learning these lessons as she goes along, but I mean, as a fan, I enjoyed the film. I don't know how accessible it would be for non-fans.
I mean, I still enjoyed it. I mean, it fits. I think after Walk the Line, people are like, and after Walk Hard, it's like doing a music biopic because they are usually so by the numbers. Like you have the high points, the low points. This is 58 minutes in is where you discover hard drugs, all that kind of stuff, and then there's a comeback tour at the end. Like, this is not that story, but there are elements of it to it, and there is the like dealing with fame, doing the thing. There are all these boxes that have to be hit. But with that said, having not known the music, not known much of it, being confused half the time, I still found it very enjoyable and got that emotion at the end of it. I really did think that, like, I was right there with her.
The scene at I thought the scene at Leslie's funeral was amazing. Like when she's sitting in the glass, and she's like, "Why the fuck do you have to do a practice run for my funeral?" I was
When
like,
she's
oh,
when she's in a glass,
shit.
which is literally in a glass cage of emotion.
Right? Exactly.
But that scene,
Yeah,
no, I jest. But that scene is that I think was the emotional heart of the film. That was, and
Yeah.
but they should
I
have.
have
It
to
would have
say,
been. He should have been there a lot more. It's like he was. It was like he was like the real singer, and he couldn't make it for some of the scenes. He was off doing a tour of Taiwan or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because their friendship as well was legendary, right? They were super close. I mean,
Like
yet
Dengar
again,
and Bosk.
like Dengar and Bosk, right? I'm sure they went on a road trip at some point. But I mean, his story is obviously very tragic because he couldn't come out in Hong Kong as being openly homosexual. He
I was wondering
suffering
that. I
from-
wasn't sure about that from the movie.
Oh yeah, yeah. They don't really allude to that at all. I mean, but he was suffering from depression for a very long time, and obviously she didn't know, and that's what led to his suicide. And I felt they could have yet again. It felt like a whole other movie, right? Because like that buddy, their relationship. I mean,
It's
there's-
fucking beaches, but with music.
But there's so many moments where you feel, oh, I want to see, like, when he tells when he tells the manager the same thing, he goes, "Don't tell Anita, I don't want her to worry about me."
Yeah.
And it's they love each other so much. And I thought the movie was very stylishly shot though. I really thought it was kind of like I thought the way they fed in the live old footage with Louise Wong's performance, I thought was seamless in the way it was done. And there were times when I was doing second takes to make sure I was like, wait, is that her? Like, oh shit, it's not. It's like the actual Anita Mui.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done. That was a really nice way to tie things together. It got slightly confusing at that one moment where she was. They talk about her sister's wedding, then she's watching the video, but she's not in the video. But in the credits, she's in the video, and I'm like, did she not go? Or I was a little baffled by that. But something else they did really nicely as well, and talked to Bahir about this afterwards, was they used CGI to recreate the Hong Kong of old and the Kowloon Wall City and stuff, because that's gone, right? That's no longer there, Kowloon Wall City? Yeah.
I don't think
the
so.
Kowloon Wall's down. Yeah.
But they did it in a way that wasn't super, like, it wasn't done in a way that it was like, it just looks like New York in an Avengers movie. It actually looked like golden hour. Everything was at this golden hue, and it looked very... When they're down on the waterfront in Hong Kong, and they're standing there looking out, it's almost a little abstract.
Yeah.
There's the neon lights of the buildings behind them. Is a Konica sign, I think, is on the stadium, and it's like you get glimpses of it, but it's like history bokeh in the max. You get an impression as opposed to getting the actual visuals. And I thought that was a really nice way of dealing with it. And I wish more movies would do that, where it is like this mythical past to it.
And I think that was really I was wondering if it was just a clever decision because
To high budget.
You know what I mean? Like,
but I think, it's a really interesting way of doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's better than bad CGI that looks where the lighting is all off. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's better than
like whenever they try to do a period
realistic
movie in Malaysia. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's not talk about that. But it just feels like that there's a stylistic decision there. You're right, Ian. That makes it look. I love that what you said. It feels like it feels like a memory. There's a sort of sepia tone to the film that you're watching. Yeah,
but it doesn't feel like they've just gone to Mexico in an American movie either, though. It's got its own thing going on. There's a lot of lovely moments. There's the fact, again, if anyone doesn't know this story and you're wondering about watching this movie, the Thailand shit came out of nowhere. I thought we'd accidentally got the wrong reel of a different movie, but she pissed off some gangland guy and had to hide in Thailand for 9 months.
Happened, but it was fucking weird, right? Like you're suddenly in a mob movie.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but again, it just feels, like I said, it feels like a montage, because when it comes up that she's been there for 9 months, it threw me for a loop.
Well, they did that. They did do that nice montage where they panned across the room. They put the camera on the slider across the room, and there's multiple versions of her and her hair gets shorter.
Yeah, but 9 months, I wasn't expecting 9 months.
It was better than when Bella sat in her room for a year in Twilight. I did like that, but it was still like it could have something that they hinted at. Like again, if they'd focus, it was a lack of focus. Like it does something they wanted to hit, but it wasn't. I mean, apart from that one shot, it's not that cinematic. Someone's hiding in a villa for 9 months.
And nothing happens, right?
I think it's partly because
progression.
I think it's partly because the movie's also 17 years in the making, right? I mean, apparently the estate or the family had allowed this production company to make this film, and it took them that long to get it off the ground. And of course, it feels like being the first actual feature biopic of Anita Mui, no one could make a decision on what to leave in and what to leave out.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they tell more of her stories, because her stories are quite, like, all the stuff she did in her relatively short life was quite amazing.
It'd be a great TV series. I will say. It'd be a great fucking TV series, you know.
And you're right, Ian. The small moments really stand out. Like, I loved all of her hero moments, and I say hero moments like when she's having cramps and she has to go out and fucking perform in front of 40,000 people.
Yeah.
Like, all of that was played really well. Like when she walks up on stage and then she just stands up straight and starts singing, and then they cut to the actual footage as well.
Yeah.
And you're just like, this is so amazing.
There's a beautiful scene when she's recording her first like a song for TV show theme tune.
The theme song.
That is a super famous song, A Debt of Love.
Fortune, Soldier of Fortune.
Soldier of Fortune is the name of the TV show,
show,
but I
yeah.
think the song was called Debt of Love. Or something.
And there's like three glasses on the table, and like it's something we've seen hundreds of music biopics and never seen this. It's like, oh, this is the if we get it done by midnight, if we get it done by tomorrow, if we get it done by whatever. And she's like, okay, I'll put me down for this one. And it's like, it's a really nice way of showing the artist's appreciation for it, because she has to cry first before she can sing the song, and then fucking nails it. And it's details like that I wanted more of, and not because these days, if you're making, again, I think if you're going to make, anyone sits down to like, we're going to make a musical biopic, you have to watch Walk Hard and any of the spoofs first, and just don't do those things, because
and don't touch those things. Yeah.
Also, can I say, this is the first time that I knew what she was singing about, because those subtitles were fantastic. I actually got the lyrics to the songs. I was like, oh, hello. Oh, and
hopefully they're accurate.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I don't know if they're accurate. I'm sure they must be. But kudos to whoever did the subtitles, because reading the subtitles felt like you were reading song lyrics, not just someone translating what she was saying, which often happens in Tamil movies and stuff like that. This one felt like it was in verse. And I was like, oh, that's quite poetic. Like, so someone took the time and effort to translate the Cantonese song into English and did a pretty good job. I wasn't paying attention to the Malay subtitles, so I don't know if they did the same. But yeah, I finally know what she's singing about. It's great.
It's something that I think it's become more and more important these days, that they have, like, translation has become a huge industry where they'll just do it like translating accents so that they sound correct if they're dubbing, or changing the words to actually make sense.
But no, I think Malaysians will go watch this movie. I hope they do. I mean, I knew like there were a bunch of Malaysians. Oh, I went for an early morning screening, dude. So there were only like 2 other people there because it was like at 10 a.m. But a bunch of Malaysians actually flew to Hong Kong for those last 8 concerts that she did before she died. Like,
there's a movie in that. Let's just cut that out. Yeah, right? Sorry, we're doing something else on that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's crazy. I have to say though, side note, I went to watch this at Dadi Cinemas in Pavilion.
Ah, here we go.
Oh, nice.
I hadn't been before. This is my first time going there, and I know we spoke about this last week or the week before. We were talking about why the pricing of the cinema was so high, because the tickets seemed quite expensive. The 10 a.m. screening was at their Star Plus Hall, which is like the Aurum style thing. So reclining seats, wireless chargers next to you, USB ports, and all that stuff, right? That one is slightly cheaper than Aurum. It's only 56 ringgit a ticket as opposed to 70 or 90 ringgit a ticket. However, it's 56 ringgit and free flow of drinks and popcorn.
Oh, Jesus. Wait, a quick big question for me is, do they have salty popcorn? Because apparently salty popcorn at GSC cinemas was a casualty of COVID.
Same. It's an option there, but the guy told me he only had caramel.
Oh, fuck that then.
Also, for those who care, because I do, this is a Coca-Cola cinema.
Yeah.
They have Coca-Cola. However, another casualty of COVID, no one seems to bring in Coke Zero or Coke Light.
Oh.
Yeah. So
don't care.
Woohoo, diabetes.
all the ones without sugar died off. They weren't strong enough.
Exactly. But the experience itself was quite interesting. The cinemas were nice. I mean, it's fresh and new, so obviously it's really, really nice.
It's got that new cinema smell.
It's got the new cinema smell. The staff are really well trained. Like, everyone is super friendly and like, hello, enjoy a movie, sir. Let me guide you to your cinema hall. Blah blah blah. I saw. I don't know if we were talking about this on a podcast, but in China, where Daddy is from, cinemas have a slightly different experience in that they get your ticket, and then when you go in, there's like cafes and shops and stuff.
Right.
So there's stuff to do even after you've passed that barrier, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know if they're doing it here, but inside there is a that Funko Pop store in Mid Valley.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, so that Funko Pop store, there's a Funko Pop store. There looks like there's spaces for other shops, so they might be opening up different things. At the moment, there's just
Okay.
a little cafe on the ground floor before the ticketing counter, but it looks like there's actually space for them to open stuff inside as well. So that might be their plan here too.
So we'll just
What
set up
was
a
the
booth where one of
screen
us is
like?
always broadcasting.
Oh.
Exactly. Influencer booths.
Ugh.
Was the
Yeah,
screen any good?
so
Yeah, it was
uh, screen was great. I mean, like I said, it's all new. I don't think they
new,
used.
yeah.
I don't think they bought any of the old GSE stuff. So screen was bright, seats were super comfy. Like,
Was it
like
Atmos
you
or was
said,
it just Dolby or what? Or just average?
this one was just a regular. I don't think it was Atmos. I think it's Eternals and stuff that still have the Atmos halls. So I haven't checked that out yet. But worth checking out. I mean, new cinemas are always nice. The bulbs are fresh. You get a good screening. But yeah, I enjoyed Anita. I mean, I'll tell you guys, I might go watch it again. But I'm a fan, so I might go watch it again.
I enjoyed it though. I enjoyed it too. Like I said, I think it hit me right in the feels right when it needed to.
Nice. That's good. That's good. Yeah, because you have absolutely zero exposure to the life and music of Anita Mui.
No.
Yeah. Cool. Anita Mui, Anita the movie is now. Hey, Anita Mui, Anita movie. Anita the movie is now is now screening in Malaysian cinemas. Go check it out. We spent 2 years talking only about streaming stuff. This is what happens. Go check it out. Let us know what you think when you have. You know how to get in touch. Goggler MY. That's our social media. Also podcast at goggler.my. And you can WhatsApp us on the Goggler hotline 012-524-5208.
And if you are watching live, we do keep an eye on the comments, so you can say
Any comments
anything.
yet?
No comments yet. I'm just saying people can, if you want to, say hello. We're always
Say hello.
eager.
All right, moving on to a Netflix film. This one is, well, it might be Lin-Manuel Miranda's debut feature. It's called Tick Tick Boom, and it is based on the life of Jonathan Larson, who was the man responsible for the musical Rent, which Tony Award winning, Pulitzer Prize winning, ran for years on Broadway and the West End as well. And this is okay, let me describe this. This is a musical based on a musical that's about writing a musical.
Musicalception.
Correct. It is an incredibly meta film. Jonathan Larson is something of an inspiration to a lot of the younger generation of musical artists like Lin-Manuel Miranda and the crew that came up after his days. He never got to see Rent. He passed away at a very, very young age. He had a sudden aneurysm, aortic aneurysm. He essentially had a heart attack.
Before it even opened, right? Just the night
The
before.
day before.
Day before, yeah.
The off-Broadway preview screenings, right? And this movie chronicles a week in his life in the lead up to his 30th birthday because he believed that he needs to do something great by the time he's 30 because Stephen Sondheim put out his first play musical on Broadway when he was just 27 years old. And Larson is obsessed with this. And he thinks that his life would be nothing if he doesn't do, something great by the time he's 30, right? Movie stars Andrew Garfield. It's got Alexandra Shipp. It's got Vanessa Hudgens, but she doesn't do much, and that really surprised me.
She does a lot of. She gives a lot of sexy side eye to Andrew Garfield.
She does.
And
While she's singing.
Lin-Manuel directed a 59-minute movie called Clayton's Friends, so that's on his IMDb.
Right.
Okay.
1996, so that's maybe just I don't know.
Student film, maybe?
Maybe.
Could be. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought Andrew Garfield's fucking amazing. I think that's what kept me invested in this film, and rightly so, because he is in every single frame. This is very much Andrew Garfield's movie.
Yes.
And I say he's capital A acting, but I don't mean it in a bad way. I think there is a real nuance to his performance as Larson, because it's not just about him trying to achieve his dreams. It's also about him coming to the realization that he needs to do things differently, that the world is changing around him, that he can't be a selfish asshole. Like, there's all of these things at play. And the way Lin-Manuel kind of shoots it, I thought was very interesting because it is shot with the backdrop of his one-man show of Tick Tick Boom that he put on for 2 years before finishing off Rent.
One man show in a band. There's a
One man
full
show in a
band.
And then it cuts kind of back and forth between these dream visions as well as his real life. And there's a lot going on in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I called you this morning, Umar, and I just said, like, I didn't know this was based on a real person until that third act. Until it wasn't even the third act, the last 5 minutes of this movie.
Were you asleep at the beginning? Because it says at the beginning, it explains who he was and how they lost him at the very first minutes.
No, they did, but I didn't know it was based on the guy who wrote Rent.
You thought, you knew this was by the guy who did Rent, but you didn't know it was about the guy who did Rent.
No, I didn't know it was about the guy.
No, he didn't even know that. He went in completely blind.
I went completely blind. No. Like, I was, like, I like 2 minutes in when the narrator, I for the life of me, I don't know who was talking, who was the narrator, maybe it was his girlfriend, but says, like, but he didn't get a chance to see it because he passed away or something like that.
Yeah. My
wife turns to me and goes, like, wait, what are we watching? I was like, I don't know. It's 2 minutes in. Give me a second, you know? And I didn't know it was about that guy. I had no idea that this was essentially a biopic, you know? And that was a weird experience. I think not knowing it was a biopic got me into the movie really late because during the first act, I wasn't sure if I was liking it. I think it felt really frenetic. I think it doesn't help. Like, I don't quite enjoy I didn't quite enjoy the music either. Yeah, it's that I don't quite like Rent's music. There's a style of writing that Rent does that I don't enjoy, and I rather Jonathan Larson does that I don't enjoy, and I think it's that. And so it wasn't until like halfway through the film where I was slowly starting to realize that I was actually enjoying myself. I was actually enjoying this film, and Andrew Garfield really did that. I think it was because of his performance. I was swaying between, like, this guy is a real asshole. That is that genius thing. I must do something by I'm 30. I must change the musical theater world. Yeah.
And then what does he say to Scott at that one point? That's hilarious. He's like, I'm the future of musical theater, Scott.
I'm pretty sure I've met guys like that, and they just annoy the fuck out of me, you know. And I stuff like that was really bouncing me off. But it wasn't until like halfway through when everything was slowly starting to fall apart around him, I was slowly starting to root for the guy. I realized, but this is not an easy watch, and I don't think that. I don't mean that as in it's heavy in topic. I just think it's in delivery. It's really a hard watch. This is like maybe advanced level movie watching. You know, you know what I mean? Like, there are are you
saying this is the Dark Souls of musicals, movies?
But maybe, yeah, because, like, you know, there are movies or musicals that are just like, you know, it goes A to B to C to D, whereas this movie jumps around the fuck a lot, you know.
I think. And what's that? There was that long running joke on the Kermode and Mayo podcast about a Brechtian. Wasn't Brechtian distancing device? Is that what it was? A Brechtian. Brechtian something device, which is something that keeps you at arm's reach from it. And I felt that every time they kept cutting back to the stage show where he's telling the story that we're seeing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every time they did that, I kind of like booted me back out of the home theater, as it were. So I was like,
right.
As opposed to just, are we watching people, like, are we watching, you know, it's Scott Pilgrim, except when they fight, they're expressing their emotions, it's the singing, you know, they're doing, because they do that in the film. They're in a room singing together. Yes. But then they add a layer on top of that where they're also on stage singing about them singing together. And it's like, you do Hamilton or do Everyone Says I Love You. Is that the one?
The Woody Allen show. Yes.
Yeah. You know, but that it's a straight musical, that one. That's the first one that comes to my mind. I'm not a big musical guy. But do one that don't have Muppets in them. Do one or the other. It's very... Going back and forth is what I found to be the distancing thing that was knocking me back out of it. You're
right. I think is that first act where they did that a lot really sort of... Because, you know, the way it opens and then you're on the stage and then you're in the diner. Then he has that party at his house.
And so that right there, that's the point. I think the diner, that's where I was watching up until the point where I said, maybe I won't watch this with a girlfriend. Maybe because by this point she'll be looking at her phone or doing something else and won't get into it. Like it didn't seat you. I mean, it's also the reason why we did. What was the one? The airplane one, the airport one in Nova Scotia.
Oh, Come From Away.
Come From Away. When that started and everyone started singing immediately, that was also no, too much. Pull up. It's like, give me a little bit of runway. I need a little bit of driveway to get into the song happening. Yeah. And this was that. In that case, it was like,
that one it was just like, welcome to the Rock.
Yeah, and my girlfriend, I don't think she'd be like, the Rock can rock off. Whereas this one was like, what is this movie? What are we watching? And I didn't want to have that conversation, so we watched Blackish instead.
I had the opposite reaction to you in the sense that I loved all of that. I like that he used those markers for when we were inside his head. So when Larson was writing something like the diner scene with the who's who of American Broadway.
Can we talk about that? Careful about that. We're not sure. That's in the spoiler description, which Netflix now puts in a separate document.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
was it there?
We can't talk about who appears in that scene, but it was driving me fucking nuts. The lady with the hat and the scarf.
Yes,
I knew who she was. I was like, who is that? Where do I know her from? But it's in the credits. Thank God.
But I mean, and then when he does, when he does the rap, which is fucking hilarious. But of course, he thinks of himself as the guy from Roots, right?
Oh, Smooth Hawk, or Hawk Smooth.
Yeah, and not just himself, a white guy trying to do a rap.
That might have been another running for the emergency exits moment, though, if I think about it. Like, they were clever enough that I mean, you're seeing them more as flights of fancy. I think I wasn't able to get into it, and I kept doing other things and coming back to it.
Right.
Getting photos together and stuff like that. But I didn't think of that as that being a thing. I just thought of that's the world of the musical. You know what I mean? There's a guy there talking, and if it had remained that, it might have held me a little bit more. But as it was, now I'm thinking about it, that makes so much more sense that these are flights of fancy. But I didn't.
But you didn't get it at the time. It didn't hit that way.
No.
Yeah.
Because I was into the story. I was into the story. Like, when he is a massive ass, like yes. I mean, that said, we're three guys in our late 30s, early 40s, all doing a video show about movies. So, that whole thing about getting everything done before you're 30, it's all good. So the anxiety, the ticking, the ticking hasn't stopped. I can't stop the ticking. It just keeps ticking all the time now. It's very relatable, but it's also like, it again falls a little bit, I didn't realize it's going to be an Anita parallel, but it does fall into like that. It's very tropey. Like the tortured genius. And it's like, maybe just do a few extra shifts at the diner and pay your fucking bills, man. It's like, you've spent all this time writing this song and you haven't written this song. So you could have written the song, in hindsight, you could have spent that time making some money. And it's like, you're being a jerk face repeatedly.
Yes. Yeah.
And to everyone around you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? I don't know if that was what I don't know if that's what the show wanted to do, because I don't feel like, as much as I enjoyed the experience of watching it, I don't have a newfound respect for Jonathan Larson.
I've still never heard a single song from Rent. All I know about Rent, I learned from Team America World Police.
Rent,
which is a great example, by the way.
The music of Rent was very big in Malaysia because when it first came out, dude, they used to play Seasons of Love all the time on Mix FM. Like, it just used everywhere you went. It was 525,600 minutes.
I hate that fucking song.
I hate the song.
Right? Yeah, it was everywhere.
And look, that's a perfect example of what I'm saying with regards to the way Jonathan Larson writes his lyrics sort of throws me off. I'm not a fan of that.
The moment that got me was when he's playing the piano in the park and there's like a key change in the middle of when he says no or whatever like that, and that's just like but the rest of it was really. I enjoyed most of the rest of it. I really enjoyed most of the rest of the song. I
really enjoyed the music.
I was constantly concerned about, am I missing something because I don't know Rent? Like, this is not Rent. This is not Rent Begins. But it feels a little bit like it might be, because they seem to be leaning that way.
It's the influences, maybe.
Are some of the things he writes down?
Isn't. No, but here's the thing. I don't think you are, because some of the things he writes down, yes, some of it has to do with Rent, but a lot of it has to do with Tick Tick Boom as well.
Okay.
Which is the one-man show that he does.
Which you're watching.
That's what I found that was quite clever about the film, because Lin-Manuel doesn't take the easy way out and do that. Like, we don't hear any of the songs from Rent. We stop before he starts writing Rent, which I think is a great thing as well, because I feel that's that feels very false to me. Like this idea of every time something ends, and then he achieved great success before he died, and I'm just like, no, that's not what this movie is trying to tell you. For me, the movie is trying to tell you that fuck, doing this shit is hard.
Yeah.
And
and also maybe
easy.
don't spend 8 years of your life on one thing. Maybe put some eggs in some other baskets.
Right. But also it is a thankless job, and more often than not, you will never be discovered and you will never make it. And it feels to me like that is what the message of the show was, as opposed to this is the genius of Jonathan Larson.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. Yeah.
I didn't feel that the movie was trying to convince me that Jonathan Larson was a genius when I was watching it. And I agree with you, Bahir, on it being a hard watch, because for me, unless you have some interest in musical theater or the performing arts, and not just in I like to go see it, but more the inside baseball of it.
You live it.
Yes.
Yeah. If you have friends who live it and stuff like that, then maybe you could relate to these characters, because otherwise, like you said, Ian, it just feels a little disconnected from reality, right?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of waiters and wannabe actors in New York City who are living that reality.
And I think there's a lot of cleverness there. There's like, it says it's expensive to make art, and it says, no, it's expensive to make art here.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very, like, there are moments of that I really, really liked. As a director, Lin-Manuel, there's cutting back to the stage stuff, and Vanessa Hudgens just being like, I'm going to fuck you later, looks all the time. There was moments where
whole movie.
She's like the 90s, get that hair bumped up, and I'm going to be femme fatale. Like, I thought there was going to be a plot line. Like, it felt like they were going to do him going with her instead of his girlfriend, but that not red herring. No. Pull up.
Yeah.
But there's a point where it dissolved beautifully from Garfield in his apartment. So just saying that sounds weird. And then it's when when he finally writes the song, it pans up to the skylight,
and it pans down again,
and it pans back down again. And I was like, that was really interesting. Like, there was some interesting visual things. I wanted more of that and less of the carpets on the floor in the theater stuff, because it was just.
I thought.
I mean, as much as I love the Vanessa Hudgens sexy side eye,
like, why
keep it in the world of the musical story, if you know what I mean.
But also, I like the way he shot that cramped apartment as well, because it wasn't a set; it felt like
when they're singing about the apartment and that life and moving on with his flatmate, who what's his name?
Michael.
No, the actor.
Oh.
Because I haven't seen him anywhere else before, but
he is also a Tony Award-winning actor. I think he was in Hamilton too.
Hamilton 2. There's a sequel?
No, as well.
Wow.
Didn't he die at the end of that movie?
They bring him back, motherfucker.
Robin de Jesus. I thought it was Jesus or something else, but Robin de Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah,
I thought he was great.
He was great. There's a little bit of the scum-sucking advertising role thing, which, knowing a lot of people who work in advertising, is like, if you enjoy your advertising job, I wouldn't make sure you're fully happy with what's going on in your life before watching this movie.
No, but here's the thing. Like, I fall squarely in Michael's camp in that argument. In that argument of
get a job, hippie.
Yeah, but it's also just like, I understand you want to chase a dream, but at some point I want the BMW and the apartment with the doorman.
And he does it at one point. He says
central
that.
heating.
He says that. Yeah. I mean, the BMW and the doorman at the apartment is fine. Lights, heating. That sounds nice.
Yeah, that sounds nice. But again, here's the thing, right? Like, the problem with this is that it's not that he couldn't afford to pay those bills. It's just that he wasn't paying those bills. Yeah. He was throwing fancy hippie parties with wine and drinks and food.
Now, that's a great musical moment that happens within that scene. The bohemia, bo, the clap a cappella stuff. I want more of that. Again, ditch the stage. Maybe I just need to wait for the fan edit where they just cut out all the stage bits.
Rent in itself came out. I mean, the reason Larson is considered revolutionary, obviously, is because Rent came out at a time when musicals in America weren't doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They weren't addressing real world issues. They weren't talking about stuff like AIDS and Ronald Reagan wasn't talking about AIDS, right? They refused to say the word AIDS.
Well,
anyway,
Where's my jelly beans?
Where are all those guns? Who did I give them to?
Everyone's thinking of the Back to the Future 2 diner right now, right?
Yes!
Well, that's all everyone. You can't do a Ronald Reagan impression without thinking of that.
It's Ronald Reagan and Max Headroom. That's what it is. It's great.
And Ayatollah Khomeini going, Pepsi, Coke.
Yeah. And so Ren was kind of like the first big Broadway musical to kind of address these issues and talk about it. And I think that's the greatness of Larson. But at the same time, yet again, this movie doesn't harp on that, which is something I really like. It's about him learning about that stuff too. It's his journey towards awareness.
Sondheim tells him he's great.
Oh, right. No, but I'm convinced that recording wasn't Bradley Whitford. I'm convinced
I'm
that
saying.
Machine
I think that's actually the real one.
The real
because
one.
it didn't sound like Bradley Whitford.
It didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And also,
Dude, if that happened to us, we'd keep that fucking tape.
Oh God,
forever.
yeah. But even the Richard Kind small role as well was hilarious and out of nowhere, but it was perfect. It's exactly what he does.
We've all been at panel discussions where there's one asshole like that.
Yeah.
Like usually someone from Finas. That's exactly what I thought, Steve.
Can I also say that was the most understated Bradley Whitford performance I've ever seen, I think.
Ever in the history of Bradley
He was
Whitford.
literally only using one side of his mouth. He was like it was like the actor
great.
equivalent of one hand tied behind his back.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Bradley Whitford, and I think I don't think I've ever seen actual footage of Stephen Sondheim, but
I have no idea what he looks like, but I was like, okay, cool.
This is my
He
Stephen
looks like
Sondheim.
that.
Okay.
I googled it. Like right
Yeah.
now, because he's 91, man.
You don't know what he looks like?
Yeah, and he's got the full beard, and he looks a lot like Bradley Whitford.
Holy
Or
shit.
Bradley Whitford looks a lot like him, right?
I just saw it. It's like insane. He even has a slightly askance view. Look at that. Look at his mouth.
I'm gonna do it right now.
Every photo is like one side of his mouth is slightly higher than the other. Bradley Whitford, by the way, is a great Twitter follow, and because he's always he's always ragging Jose Molina.
Yes. Both of them have this long-running fun feud going on.
But his choices are good, interesting choices, as are Richard Kind's.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, I don't know the other thing. I mean, it's between two ferns with me. It's like because everything Alexandra Shipp does in this movie just makes me fall in love with her.
She's great.
Yeah.
She's great, and there is I thought that moment towards the end when there's let's call it a duet between her and Vanessa Hudgens.
That was really nice.
I thought that was beautifully shot and very well recorded as well. It just is amazing. Yeah. Story goes that
no photos for any of this, by the way, because we don't have any photos. We don't have any photos. There's no decent photos of this movie online yet.
Story goes that apparently Andrew Garfield couldn't sing, and so he is apparently because he won a Tony for Angels in America, and that's where Lin-Manuel Miranda saw him. And then
when was that? Was that pre or post Spider-Man?
2000. I can't remember. I can't remember when it was, but Angels in America, right? This long pre-Spider-Man.
I think it was post.
Yes, post Spider-Man.
Okay.
I think it was post Spider-Man. So Angels in America, 8-hour play with like an intermission. Everyone hates the theater. Very, very long.
I saw the movie. It's weird.
So Lin-Manuel sees him there, offers him the job, asks him if he can sing. And I was listening to an interview with Andrew Garfield, and Andrew Garfield goes, when do you want to make this? And Lin-Manuel goes, in about a year and a half. And he goes, okay, by then I can sing. And so he learns he picks up all of the skills that he's always wanted to do, which is sing, dance, and play the piano.
So he's the Kumail Nanjiani of musical theater.
There you go. And I was like, I was blown away by everything he does.
I mean, if I was this is people always say, Tom Cruise is such a real nice guy. If I getting paid fucking $60 million a movie for like 3 months' work, I'd be the nicest guy on the planet. Also, I'd be incredibly ripped if I was getting paid to get ripped.
Yeah. We're lifting weights and we're like, fuck this. That waffle.
Not only am I getting nothing doing this, it's actually costing me money because I have so many other things I need to do.
That's our excuse. Yeah, yes it is.
But I think that nugget should be if anyone's still watching, if anyone watching is always like, I can't sing. I'm always like, fuck you. You can sing. Anyone can sing. until you've been proven wrong by a group of 50 to 200 of your peers. Would you, when that many people agree, maybe stop. But until that point, go for it. Sing your little heart out. Karaoke, whatever. Busking on the street. It's all good.
Do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Tick Tick Boom has a cinema release in the UK and the US. It drops on Netflix here in Malaysia and most of the rest of the world. I'm not sure if it's a Netflix release in the US at the same time though. I don't know if they're doing it in the cinema first and then releasing it Netflix there later. But it's not an easy watch. But if you are a fan of musical theater and the performing arts, watch it. Let us know what you think when you do.
I think. Sorry. The other thing as well that really came to mind at the end of this was that this is a better movie about the performing arts and performing theater and performers than Ryan Murphy's The Prom was. You know, Ryan Murphy's The Prom felt like it was more concerned with being famous and being glitzy and glamour of the Broadway, as opposed to the actual art of theater, the actual love of, doing the work.
It's the difference between doing something that lands you famous and trying to be famous.
Yeah.
It's usually dipshits who aim for fame.
Yes.
But thanks, by the way, I'd completely forgotten about the existence of The Prom, so thanks for that, Bahir. Thanks for...
You're welcome. I mean...
lying in bed tonight, it's like, man, the songs are going to start haunting me later. It's going to happen. Fuck it.
Yeah. I mean, look, Andrew, James Corden in that shiny suit, bro.
Oh, nightmare.
You're welcome. And I think,
welcome.
No, but I think that's what really got to me at the end of this film was that is the bullshit idea that people get about performing arts and even Hollywood that
it's all about the glitz and the glam.
It's all the glitz and the glam, whereas this is the real work, right? This is putting in the hours.
And while it's tropey, I think it comes down to the fact that like we've all procrastinated and was like, I've got something I need to be doing, but it's a little bit creative and I need to put some thought into it. And I'm like, maybe now's the right time to clean the kitchen.
Yes.
Like he does clean the house at one point, and it's purely just because he's avoiding doing the one song that everyone has told him he needs to write. And that he's written an entire musical already. It took him a while, or he does it for Sugar. He does those little small the Sugar moment's great. Yeah. The guy who plays his mentor guy there, I thought was great as well.
His professor.
Yeah, his professor.
Yeah.
But it can be that, it's like, I only have to write 20 pages by this point. I'll do it. And then you end up Thursday night at 4 a.m. 18! 2 more pages!
Tick, tick, boom. Yeah. Tick, tick, boom. Catch it on Netflix. Let us know what you think once you do.
Don't watch it if you're turning 30 this week, because that might be a bit much.
Yeah, a little depressing.
Yeah.
Especially if you've done nothing with your life.
Yeah.
Reach out on Goggler MY on our social media feeds, also podcast at goggler.my, also 012-524-5208, the Goggler hotline. So those are our 2 movie reviews for the week, and we're finally going to be talking about the long awaited Netflix adaptation of the cult classic anime Cowboy Bebop by Shinichiro Watanabe. This one was announced many years ago. There were production delays because John Cho got injured because of COVID. It finally lands on Netflix. It's 10 episodes. It is...
So 10 hours long.
It's there.
It exists. It's a thing that's out in the world. I was thinking about this, Ian. I was like, because Ian and I are big fans of the original series. We've watched all of it many times. Bahir has had no experience with the anime. I think he's seen one episode.
One
episode. It doesn't count. Whatever. That doesn't even count as some, Bahir. It's one episode that you noped out.
Yeah.
Wait, did you nope? Yeah, I thought you rewatched one fully after watching a little bit of this. No.
No, didn't get it. I was thinking of doing it, but didn't get it.
No, he didn't.
Nah, didn't bother. And too much other things to do.
I was watching the show, and then I was thinking about, I'm going to review it on the podcast on Thursday. And I literally had nothing to say. Like I was.
remember what I said about Tick Tick Boom when you've got something you need to get done and you have a timeline in mind and you don't know what you're going to get done. That was me on Saturday morning with this fucking show.
Right.
I just can't write like a primal scream into text. It's like, wah, you can't do that. That doesn't work in text.
That's all I wanted to do, right? And I'll tell you, the good thing I have to say about the show is that Mustafa Shakir, Daniela Pineda, and John Cho
They look great.
are good. They look great.
Yeah.
They are, however, saddled with some of the most awful writing
Ooh.
and dialogue. Like it's
So
so,
this is the thing.
stilted and stiff.
Now, is it one of the things, to a little bit inside baseball here? We both, I think, watched the live action show first. I watched the first episode, then I watched the first episode of the anime, then I did some chin stroking, then I watched the rest of the live action show, and then I went back and watched the entirety of the anime.
Okay.
Yeah, you did the same, right? Because you were getting close to the end. So did you get to the end of the anime?
I'm one episode.
Oh.
I stopped at episode 9. It just
Nine.
One of those things.
Sorry,
I load up Netflix.
Wait, of the live action show.
Of the live action show.
But of the anime?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the anime I watched it all. The thing is with the anime, once I started, I could not stop.
You know that meme,
right?
X always understands the assignment. Uma's like wanders off in the middle of you telling him that.
Yeah, no, but here's the thing, right? And I think that is symbolic of everything the show is, because the headline of your article sums it up, right? It is trying to be too faithful and then just
Do
not
its own
enough.
thing. Yeah.
And do its own thing, but not enough of its own thing. And I'm watching the anime and I put on one episode and I'm like, okay, I'll do one more. Meanwhile, with Cowboy Bebop, we got access to the screeners weeks ago and it took me ages. I was so excited for this and it took me ages to get through those 10 fucking episodes, and they're like 40 minutes each. And
I started to feel that weight as it went on.
Yes, it's the weight of it, but also primarily because I felt that need to let out a primal scream after every episode.
You've seen all 10 episodes of here, right?
No, still haven't gotten back into it.
Okay, well, we'll do a separate show on the last episode, because the last 5 minutes of the last episode, we can't talk about it, and we shouldn't talk about it, but you need to see that to really understand the true cosmic horror that we're dealing with here. It's like you guys have just experienced Cthulhu's Pinky, but I have seen full cock and balls. I've seen the Franken beans. There's something that happens in the last episode where I was just like, well, I was hoping this character would turn up, but this might be the worst possible way they could do it. So, yeah, I mean, I was trying to come up with some clever, I think back to when we wrote, I usually think back to that time we wrote about the first three, what was that? We did the Nolan, what's his name, Christopher Nolan. Chris Nolan? Man, this movie's broke my head. Chris Nolan retrospective, and it was like thoughtful and analytic, and it was like, clever writing we all did, and that was great. And trying to do something for this, and I'm just like, I can't. It's just like, when I rewatched the originals, I got more and more angry, because they do, like, the first episode is very much like the first episode of the anime. Watching them straight back to back, it's very cool. But even then, I checked my notes again, there are signs of what's going on, which is that somebody somewhere has missed the point. There's a point in the first episode, the first anime, where there's somebody dies in a spacecraft, and it's in a show that is wall-to-wall music. That moment is silent.
Yep.
It's given moment to sit there, and literally I'm going to keep saying this because the movie puts it in your head. You feel the weight of that. You're going to carry that weight is one of the things about this show. It's like your history. You can't escape it, even whether it's some bounty hunters or whether it's, the human race in a solar system where the Earth is fucked. You're going to feel that way. It's going to come back around and get you. And like this is like they have the music play over that scene. And it's like this is a moment like you've recreated it almost shot. It's almost perfectly the exact same shot in live action.
Right.
But you missed out that it was supposed to be silent. And it is, and that first show, you're going to be able to do an awful lot more with the anime-ness of it all. Like tying it to the music. I didn't realize until I looked up the Wikipedia article that Yoko Kanno and the creator, she finished her music early, so they started animating to the music, and then they changed some things up to fit the music she'd given them, because she'd given them more music than she actually was supposed to. She hadn't just scored it. She said, oh, here's some other stuff I just dashed off because I'm no Jonathan Larson. I'm amazing all the time.
Yeah.
And you see that where it's like you're seeing industrial music, and I'm hearing it right now. There's a do 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 do. Like the music fits perfectly what they're doing on screen, and you're never going to be able to do that in a live action version. But they constantly trip up when they try to, even using the existing music. Like I saw someone complaining about the Vicious and the church fight, which I don't think either of you have seen. Have you seen the church fight?
No, we haven't seen that.
So there's a point where John Cho reaches for a gun and pulls back, and it's in time with the music, but it looks like he's holding for the music and then pulling it back too slowly. Like it needed another take.
Right.
It's like they should have had the music on set or something like that, or they hadn't figured out what music would go where or something like that. And the more it goes on, the more I watch that original show, because I couldn't remember most of the end of it, but watching it, there's so much stuff in there about, I think it's in the first episode, the corporate sleazebags, and the Bebop crew never set out to find out what happened with the astral gates that link all the planets. You go a little bit of hyperspace when you're going between planets.
Exactly.
They never.
It's unimportant. It's just there.
It's
right?
just, but you find out by accident when they're on the job, you know. And
Correct.
there's so much of that goes on. It's like even Faye doesn't go looking for her past originally. It's just this tape has been following her around the postal service for forever. Whereas in this, there is a little bit of cryo sleep fraud in the original, but it's like it's a different way. It's a bit fat phobic, actually. To be honest, it's the way it's done is bad. It's not her mother. It's a guy who then she meets later, and he's fat because he's a bad guy, and it's a bit that's not going to work these days. Don't do that. So that's a good change. And some of the stuff they do add, like the whole shower bath. I keep wanting to say shit shower and save, but it's shower bath and shower, right?
Yeah.
Little elements like that. Some of the banter between these actors is good enough. Spike's hair gets distracting at a certain point because it should actually just not do that. It looks great at first, but the moment he gets in a fight, it looks bad. All right?
Yeah.
It just
every time they try to recreate an anime fight, I feel there's a different. Yeah, I feel there's a different approach to that. Even in the second episode, the bathroom fight, which is directly lifted from the series as well, looks incredibly cool in the series. Looks incredibly fast. There's something they do with the frame rate in the animation. It gives it a sense of urgency. It's almost like the toilet fight scene at the beginning of Casino Royale. There's a brutality and an urgency to it, but anime style, right? In this one, when you do it live action, everything feels almost slow motion. There's very little contact. Nothing seems to land.
Because in animation, you can skip frames. You cannot skip frames in live action. And you can. It's like with the Spider-Verse, you can animate in 1s and 2s. It's like, well, we need to animate on 3s and 4s for this one scene because we need this to hit dum dum dum. You can do that. It takes way too much. The amount of effort it would take to do that in a live action show is problematic. I said to you as well, Bahir, the end of the first episode has a fight where Spike finds the guys he's looking for, and he's just wearing, he's hiding out where they need to go. He's wearing a poncho and a sombrero, and they whip the sombrero off, but he has his hands in his pockets, and he just fights this guy with his feet. And it's cool, but it's an awful lot of like, if you pause it at any moment, it's like, you know those stretched Simpsons screens?
Yes. Yeah.
It looks like those tweens. That there's so many. I think it's all tweens. There's like a few shots of in between. Doing that in this movie, this is where I guess it comes back to what you talked about, the Star Wars movie thing as well, Uma. The Mandalorian doesn't have an awful lot of hand-to-hand fight scenes because it takes too much money to do that, and this show is running into that problem.
Yeah.
To do John Wick, you need a John Wick budget, right? And you need 6 months of training time. You can't have it in whatever time was left after John Cho broke his leg.
The first episode had a massive problem with me with the dynamic between Jet and Spike when they're having dinner. And Jet is cooking beef and peppers.
It's not beef, it's just peppers. It's peppers and noodles.
It's just, no, exactly, right?
There's no beef. They can't afford beef. Are you mad?
They can't afford beef, right? But there's the whole bit that plays out in the anime, and it's a very short, snappy moment that kind of immediately highlights that they have no money, that they keep fucking up, that they can't afford good food, and they're forced to eat this stuff. And in the live action show, it is much longer, it is stretched out, and it misses the point that they were trying to make in the anime. And for me,
it's literally the same scenes, but here, but like you see like Jet, you know, doing that thing with a frying pan where it flips the veggies over. It's like one shot of that, one shot of Spike working out, one shot of this, one shot of like Spike sitting on the couch. But it's like literally 20 seconds or a minute. But
the message is so clear.
Yeah, this show, I think I had in my notes was it's more runtime, less plot, or less point.
Less point, yeah. And that goes back to what you were saying about them not, or someone not grasping the idea, or grasping the idea, but trying to balance it out with their own creative vision, whatever that may be, right?
Yeah.
And it reminded me of two things, and they're both not good. The first was the Psycho remake, where it's frame by frame, but completely fails to grasp any of the magic of the Hitchcock. Not just because it was in color, but for a lot of different
because it was Vince Vaughn. That's another reason.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn. But whether it was camera angles, whether it was music, just like you said about the death in the first episode and the silence not being used, that. And the second show that this reminded me of, which is a lot harsher to say, but I think accurate. This felt like Jupiter's Legacy. When I read
Because
the
of one
comic-
guy. Because of this motherfucker right here, right? Oh, I put the pictures the wrong way around. Okay, because of that guy.
That guy.
He
Kind
makes Eddie Redmayne's performance in fucking Jupiter's Legacy Ascending. No, not Legacy. That's the other one.
Ascending, no,
Oh,
Legacy.
Ascending. Oh,
Legacy
sorry.
is
We're
the
talking
other thing.
about.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, my bad. Yeah.
We're talking about Wachowski.
On this show, we do not do sound bites on this show. We fuck them up every time. He makes his Eddie Redmayne's performance look like restrained.
Yes, he does. He also looks like what happens when Draco Malfoy got old.
It's the
And
worst.
joined the mob.
It's the worst element of visual fidelity versus like getting the point. If you haven't seen the show by here, Vicious turns up and like there's just there's a glance between like. You haven't got to the church fight, so you don't know that. Like when there's a church fight that happens in the anime, and it happens early. It happens at the end of this series, and in that anime, this guy turns up. You don't know who the fuck he is. He's got white hair, a scary motherfucker. He's got a weird bird, and he talks about like we've got demons' blood within this. And when the first time you're meeting somebody, that's kind of a cool thing to hear. Who's this mysterious guy with this? It's like if he's quoting Paradise Lost. By the time he gets around to it at this show. Whether I don't want to blame the actor, I don't. It felt like that whole thing was a second unit, and the guy was doing so much crack or something that he just didn't know what was going on.
For me, it felt like the right thing.
So I've been fairly quiet throughout all this.
Sorry,
because you guys have been
I blacked out there. I don't even remember what I said earlier.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, no, but I think a lot of what you're saying, even to me as a person who doesn't know the original anime, this series is bland. You know, this guy, this villain, he doesn't come off as someone who's very scary. There's a whininess to him. There's a less than threatening element to him. Everybody tells me I'm supposed to be afraid of him, but I'm not really afraid of this guy.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that thing that you're talking about, Ian, about how when he is mysteriously dropped in the anime, here I'm given too much backstory before I even know before I get to see him be threatening, that he is no longer threatening. He's just this misunderstood goth kid.
The first time you see him, he fucks up and almost has to do something bad for his overlords, right? They catch him doing something bad. And it's not like...
Which wasn't in the anime.
It wasn't in the anime.
Feels like a completely irrelevant addition to the character.
No,
in the anime, he's Sauron. That's what it is.
Yes.
You don't see him that often, but what he does, he's like, he's an Uber boss and he wrecks house.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, he's like, you see him fuck up repeatedly. And also, he does that thing where he puts his tooth, he doesn't have an overbite and underbite, his teeth match perfectly, or else he does it on purpose. And it's just like...
he talks throughout it constantly.
Yeah. It's just like, who told you this was threatening?
There's I edited the video of the interview we did with the creator, Andre Nemec, and he was talking about how he wanted to add a backstory to Vicious, and I think that was probably the problem. I think I didn't need a backstory. No, like for me, coming into
both
this
Vicious
show,
and Julia, right?
Yeah, but coming into the show, even just from the way you guys are describing Vicious, it feels like if you want to give him a backstory, give it to me in season 2, maybe. You know,
or
you've now introduced him as a guy, as a less than threatening villain. He's not the big villain. He's just the general of another guy who's which just feels like a putz.
It's literally it's breadcrumbs in the anime where you could be, we're going after this weird guy, and then like there's a little bit of Vicious in there, or there's a little bit of the Syndicate, and it's like it's the world building that Game of Thrones did early on, where you hear about these places. It doesn't bring you straight to them. Whereas in this, it's like we're going to put it in your face right now, and it's like
no, but also you take me there, but then you show me that they're not as scary as everybody thinks they are.
Yeah. Like he's not an effective villain in any way, shape, or form. Yeah,
he isn't, and I think, and I've seen 7 episodes, 8 episodes of this, and I keep telling Ian that when I first put it on, I think I went through 3 episodes or 4 episodes, but then I got called off to do other work, and it was just, and then I had to come back. I had to force myself to come back.
To remember, you had to watch it.
Yeah, because I kept thinking, we have to do the review. We haven't done the review yet. I had to go back, and it just feels like when I put it on, I don't really care, but I'll just sort of binge through it. But when I stop, it just takes me forever to come back to it. I know I've got 3 episodes to go. I know there's a clown in there somewhere. I still don't know what the fuck is up with that dog. You know, I'm just like, I don't care.
But everything you guys have said, everything you have said for me boils down to simply bad writing and direction, right? In the sense that when you watch the original anime and you see how tightly that thing is written, there is so little exposition. These characters are built up over the course of these 26 episodes in brilliant fashion, where you learn little nuggets of information about all of them, even the dog.
Yeah, the anime is like because you have to animate everything. It's the same as the early Pixar movies. Like, we're going to make sure everything's 100% before we do anything.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so that means the music, the visuals, the story. It's like, we're going to get a hint of this thing here and here and here. We're going to have a space shuttle. They don't have the space shuttle.
Yeah. Quick question.
Yeah.
The anime, there's another girl, right?
Which girl?
Who's not Faye.
What? Oh, are we allowed?
Oh, Ed.
Ed, yeah. There's a kid on board who's a hacker called Radical Ed.
Okay, cool.
She's the redhead one on the right. So yeah, there's this idea that because they mentioned early on, they do get jobs from a hacker in the anime, a hacker called Radical Ed, and then you eventually meet Radical Ed, and then like Faye, it's one of these things where like she just bargains her way onto the Bebop. It's like I said it in my review, the show is a vibe. Nothing feels intentional by these main characters. Shit keeps happening to them, but they do the rightest thing they can in every situation. But as a result, more interesting things happen. It's all, in this one scene, like, the right thing for Spike to do would be this, but instead he grins, looks up under his eyebrows, and then kicks the living shit out of someone he shouldn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's hugely entertaining when he does that, and he has to play with the thing.
And in most cases, it makes them all more interesting characters as the series progresses.
And Ed is going to be divisive because Ed turns up very briefly, and it's very literal. It's incredibly literal how they went with it, and it's one of the characters from the anime where its anime-ness would never translate. Like, look at Faye's outfit there. Can you see what Faye's wearing here? She's wearing like stockings. Yeah. You've seen her outfit. You can't do that in live action. There's no point doing that in live action.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Ed doesn't work either. They needed to be Danger Will Robinson or something like that. It's that kind of character. She does have a lot of weird shit going on because she's always on the internet not paying. No one in the show pays attention to it. Like, Spike could be just sitting on the couch and Faye's like, losing her mind over finding out about her past. He won't notice.
Yeah.
Or at the certain points where Ed has found out something incredibly important to the plot, but Ed would never think to tell the others, and the others would never pay enough attention to Ed to figure it out. It's only the viewer knows this. That's the kind of show it is. It's like, you're chuckling to yourself, and eventually they might get there, but it's not because they communicated or dealt with things as a family, or sang a rhyming song to organize a plan, which was you've even seen that episode. That was kind of cool. You brought up the clown thing. One of the things about the clown thing is that the original is called Pierrot Le Fou, which is like Pierrot is a French famous clown, right? Or it's a reference. In the new show, the similar themed episode is called Sad Clown a Go-Go.
Yeah.
Right.
That's like how far from God we've fallen here, you know what I mean? From God's light.
No, and all of that works in an anime as well. And I think that also goes back to the kind of thing that we are willing to accept as an audience from a Japanese anime, a cartoon. Like, there are story leaps, there are narrative tropes that happen in that genre that I don't think we would accept if we watch it in a live action Western
thing, you shouldn't
Hollywood
have done the clown
production.
Thing.
Right?
I checked.
Exactly.
There's an episode where there's a biological weapon that turns people into trees.
Yeah.
Yes. In the anime, it turns them into monkeys.
Yeah.
That's a clever change. This is one of the many changes where you can see exactly why they changed it. It's like the effects to achieve a CGI monkey be too much. You don't want to get real monkeys. A tree would make more sense, and it works better. And the resolution of that story, that's Adrienne Barbeau from Swamp Thing.
That's right.
So that there's some clever changes made there, but also, and one of the sibling terrorists is a woman now instead of them all being dudes, and there's more interesting things there. But also, there's they lose the resolution to that story is completely different, and it misses out explaining so much about the world that you don't even think is explaining the world. They explain something about the hyperspace gates that will later pay off, but they don't do it in this movie.
Right.
But it goes back to the Jupiter's Legacy comparison, right? Because when you read the comic, No, Legacy.
Oh,
I'm
Legacy?
talking about Jupiter's Legacy.
Okay, Eddie
And
Redmayne
how
wasn't in
bad-
that.
No,
Now
but how
we're-
bad the Netflix.
Now we're
how
jumping,
bad-
okay.
No, but how awful the Netflix adaptation was, right?
Oh, okay.
Because you
Yes.
read the Mark Millar comic, and the Mark Millar comic, in explaining the origins, does very much what All Star Superman did in those great opening panels, right? It's very quick, it's very brief. It doesn't explain the stuff that doesn't require explaining. In this one, in fleshing out, in thinking he needs to flesh out all of this stuff,
Yeah.
the writers, the director, the showrunners, they've added stuff that is completely unnecessary, that is fat, and actually doesn't do anything to the story. So an episode like the first episode of the live action borrows from the first episode of the anime. It has some elements, like it uses some scenes from the Knocking on Heaven's Door movie in the opening casino heist, which is also completely misplaced.
Yeah.
And it adds fat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Oh,
it
no, you're
adds,
right. Yeah, the casino wasn't in there.
It's
Yeah.
not in that. It's
No.
in the movie.
Yeah,
And
So it
yeah,
adds-
okay.
in that first
and,
episode,
and the casino isn't even in the movie, right?
No.
In the movie, in the very first bit,
It's a 7-Eleven.
it's a heist on a convenience store, and even the way the heist plays out, Spike thinks he has everyone. He's got everyone, and then at the last minute, someone steps out of the toilet, and Jet's like, "You didn't check the fucking toilet." In this one, someone's already holding a woman hostage, and then someone steps out of the toilet, and I'm like, "Wait, what's the point?"
there's-
The whole idea was that the guy steps out of the toilet, grabs the woman, and then tells Spike, "What you gonna do, punk?"
later in that first episode, there's the Antonio Banderas and Salma Hayek walk from Desperado walk into a bar. It looks like,
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
that was where I thought, are they trying to do Desperado? Because that would be an interesting thing to do, to westernize it. To do
Correct.
everything
Correct.
is going to be a reference. No, it's not that. They're not that smart. It was, do you know what it is? That, an awful lot of that street set they used, I think, is the set they used from Umbrella Academy. Remember when 13, was it 13? Who's the time traveling kid?
Oh yes,
When he
he's
popped
in the
into
future
19
and it's apocalypse.
When he popped into 1969 and the nukes flew?
yes,
Same street.
Oh.
The other thing is, I think the jazz bar is, I think, the set they might have used for Altered Carbon. Remember they had that long street set?
yes,
Oh,
I think it looks
Yes.
very similar. So
probably.
that's why I was like, why do we
so
need? There's no,
Netflix has just got like a studio backlot somewhere
yeah,
now.
there's no,
which is
there's no
videos
jazz
and
bar
shit.
in the anime by here.
Oh wow, really?
No, that character just works in a grocery store, and she turns up twice.
Oh.
I'm curious though if this has any audience. Like Bahir, like, would you have
He keeps forgetting to
if
watch
you
it.
weren't? No. If you weren't doing this, would Cowboy Bebop popping up on your Netflix feed be something that you click on?
Yes.
Because you like sci-fi, so you would, right?
No, but I would watch it because I heard about the anime so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't
That's-
like anime, so that's not really a
No,
point
no,
of.
But he could
to
be
me,
thinking
it's
this
this
is the one that's going to translate it into
This is
live
the
action
one that
for
gets
you.
me
Right.
into it, right?
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
it's this idea that I never liked the anime,
Yeah.
don't like anime. Oh, but here's an American version of the anime. I'll watch.
He could fucking love the Jordan Voight Roberts Evangelion movie or Taika Waititi Evangelion movie or whoever fucking does it in the end. But
Yeah.
that what I was saying about the Desperado.
I think John Ford Roberts is doing Gundam.
Oh, okay, that's the one.
Yeah.
Giant robots, small children. Yeah, understandable.
Sure.
The thing about the Desperado couple, sorry, when they walk into that bar, there's a pregnant lady. In the anime, the pregnant lady asks the barman for a Bloody Mary.
Yes.
So it's already setting your mind up. It's like, something's not right here.
Right.
In this version,
Why is she drinking?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in this version, the pregnant lady asks for a glass of water, and the person behind the bar says, "We only have whiskey or whatever, like or tequila." And you're like, Why
Yeah.
did you do that? Like that's the original.
That swap didn't make sense.
Yeah, the original point was like they had gone through all the options. This is the best way to get across something, and then
Yeah.
you decided to do your own. Why? Because you're smarter than these towering giants of anime. I don't think so.
No, it's because you can't show a pregnant woman drinking alcohol.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, so at that point, don't do the fucking show. I mean, it's the same. Like I say, you haven't got to the clown episode. The clown episode links the clown to a character they're not linked to. They leave the dog behind on a planet. In the show, they adopt. There's in the live action show, Jet doesn't have a kid in the anime, but there's a point that like this dog is a mongrel. It's not worth 200 Wulongs. Never mind the thousands of Wulongs they've spent chasing it down and everything else. So they keep it because what else are they going to do with it? It's not like in this show. It's like, well, he has a kid now. It's like a set of like idiot dominoes. You know what I mean? It's like the worst
Right.
dominoes of all time. It's like Jet needs to have a kid. He'll get the dog for the kid. We get to the episode. It's like, oh wait, we need a dog to get back on the ship. So therefore, there's taxes on dogs. So they can't afford it, but we'll hide it on the ship. And then it's one of those things again. There's no like, this is our dog. We're going to fight for it. It's just like when the moment comes up and they have a chance to kick the dog off, they'll never do it. They'll always come up with some reason to keep it. But they never outright say, I love you, buddy, or anything like that. They'll just have some weird moments with the dog. In this, they leave the fucking dog behind on the planet. They just leave him fucking behind. It's like...
And also, for me, the whole idea of Jet having a kid was just a stupid, pointless addition because it did nothing for the character, right?
It did add something that I thought was
nobility-
incredibly weird, which is seeing Jet in his full sci-fi gear standing in the middle of a suburban house with nothing weird about it. I was like, this is just a weird visual. More of this.
I know, but speaking of that as well, in an anime that is full of incredible visuals, in every episode you could freeze frame a scene that was absolutely memorable and beautiful. This series has none of them.
None of it.
Like there is no visual style. Like when I was watching Tick Tick Boom, even when I was watching Anita, there were certain shots where I was like, freeze frame that and print it out. It is gorgeous.
Screensaver.
Right? It's a composed shot, right? Exactly. Not and there's a lot. Like they spent a lot of money on all of that sci-fi shit and beautiful sets and whatever, but yet I couldn't find a moment that was as memorable or beautiful as anything in the anime. But going back to the daughter thing, what frustrated me about the daughter thing is that there is a nobility to Jet in the anime series that you could achieve without this sense of, I have a kid now, and so I'm a father. I mean, he didn't need that to be noble in the anime series.
Yeah.
But even in the live action, I didn't see that nobility. It just felt like a burden on him that he had to carry. Oh no, I have to go watch. No, it's like, oh
it's
shit,
her birthday, damn it! I need to buy her a present.
I have to go and watch her dance recital. You know, it's cute, but it does fuck all for the character.
It's one of those things.
He's just
it's still good. Finish.
Yeah, I just like, it just feels like he's just a dad, you know, who's trying to prove himself, which is not a noble trait. It's just every other American father figure who's not there kind of trope that we've seen in countless TV shows.
Yeah. And there's something that comes up in, like, I think we watched some Korean drama this week as well that we're not covering, but it was like, who's he to be so cool? You know, something that never comes up in an English thing is like, he's being so cool about this. I'm not sure if it's a translation thing, but it comes up sometimes, or it's like, he's being so cool. And that's the translation, but it usually means like he's being aloof. He's not telling me what's going on. He's not sharing or about that. And there's an element of that to the Jet character in the anime. It's just like, he's caring for people, but they'll get pissed if you lie to him all the time. He knows more about Spike's past than he does in the show as well, the live action show. Like, he doesn't know all of it, but he knows enough that like they don't. At one point, he says, "Well, this probably has something to do with your past, you know, with the syndicate." And like Spike's like, "What, you want me to tell you about it?" And he's like, "Well, yeah." And he's like, "Well, how did you lose your arm?" And Jet's like, because that's the level of their conversation, right? They both know their relationship is deep enough. They both know they can rely on each other, but they also both know the certain areas they don't go to. Whereas this infantilizes it a little bit to like, you didn't tell me about what you did before. So and it's that element of like. I think there's some of that cultural stuff gets lost where they think like they can't have them act like assholes to each other all the time. That's the cool element is like, you're being cool about this means that like, you know, Spike will just sit there, chew on a stick and then just leave. And you have no idea where he's going. Nobody is coming back. And Jet just has to deal with that. And that's the thing they don't want to seem to do too much in the show. I think because I think people won't get it. Like, Faye pops into their lives, then disappears out of their lives, and then pops in again. They don't want anything to do with her, and then pops in. It's not like everybody all aboard the good ship Bebop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, James Gunn did it very well in Guardians of the Galaxy, right? You have all of these characters. You don't know much about their past. They all are forced to work together for some reason. Only Drax keeps talking about his wife and daughter. Everyone else is very quiet about it. And so you've got a nice blend of outcasts and wannabes who end up working towards a similar purpose. And that was what Cowboy Bebop was, right? And even then, even as we reach the end of the anime series, there is still a reluctance on everyone's part because they've all got sordid past that they're trying to run away from, and they don't want to talk about it, and they're trying to escape from it. And that's the one thing that kind of holds them all together. And I didn't get that watching
No.
these 10 episodes, these 9 episodes. I'm yet to see the 10. I don't know now.
There's a lot
if I
of
will,
there's a lot of baka in the anime, which is like everyone calling each other fools, and they're saying baka, like you're a fucking idiot, and then leaving. And then
and there's a lack of self-awareness as well, because they're just as much.
They've done something similar to the previous episode or earlier on that episode, and they'll go off for a bit, and it's very hard to do it in anime in live action where they're doing that kind of weird crooked face, and they're like lidded eyes, and they're like thinking like fuck that guy, and then they come like fuck that guy, and then they go back and help.
Yeah,
that's not going to translate, but what they've replaced it with here doesn't work.
But there's a way to write them.
Yeah,
and they don't capture that. They don't capture the essence. They don't capture the magic. It's I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see what the hardcore fans of the anime, how they'll react to this when it comes out. I mean, other than this, I mean, to be fair, we're not as militant as some of the people on the internet. So I'm curious to see how the militant fans will react to this.
But rewatching it got me, like I said, every episode made me more mad. And there's also the fact that despite the budget they have for the effects, they're still establishing shots. There's no...
Yes.
There's more action scenes that are dependent on the swordfish, the red tail, which is Faye's ship, and the hammerhead, which Jet just doesn't. Jet gets a trike.
Yeah.
he has a weird flat looking ship that looks like something out of Jason the Wheel Warriors with a harpoon gun on it in the anime, and he doesn't have that here. He doesn't have any. Someone stole his car, I guess, but it's decisions like that are like
it's full of weird decisions.
Yeah.
Like, why did you decide to do this but not that? Yeah. Right? I don't know. And if you're not a fan of the anime and if you've never heard about Cowboy Bebop at all, yet again, I think, like what Bahir said, there is a blandness to this series.
Yes.
That is not going to draw you in because it doesn't really move at a pace either.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who this is for.
I saw someone talk about that from what they'd seen, and it made me think about it a bit. Despite the colorful world, they're all muted colors, right?
Yep.
Like everything is flat. There's an element, rewatching the anime again, when they go through the astral gates, there's a lot of like giant fucking signs, like neon signs that are bigger than the gate. Whereas in this, it's like they approach the gate, and I don't know, maybe they're thinking a TV audience might be confused. So they just have the gate, and as he's going through the gate, then you start seeing signs and things like that. Whereas it's like, I think they do a little bit with the casino. The casino does have that giant roulette wheel hologram in space, but it doesn't keep that crazy big tone.
No. The visuals are
flat,
a mixed bag. Yeah, flat. Yeah. Cowboy Bebop will be available on Netflix tomorrow. If you are listening to the podcast, it is available on Netflix right now because you'll be listening to this in the future. Let us know what you think when you've seen Cowboy Bebop, if you're going to see Cowboy Bebop, and if you're a fan of the original series, like myself and Ian, if you've seen it many, many times, what do you think of these 10 episodes? You know how to get in touch. Goggler MY are our social media feeds. Podcast at goggler.my is our email address, and you can WhatsApp us on the Goggler hotline. That's 012-524-5208. You're better off getting all these DVDs and watching the originals.
It's on Netflix, Uma.
It's on Netflix now.
I'm old school, motherfucker.
And unlike many different things, like the music is tied directly to it. It's not like Grand Theft Auto where they took some of the music out. It's like it's all there. It's on Spotify.
Yep.
It's choice.
I just want to say. I again only seen one episode of the anime, but I know Tank. I know the theme song, right?
Yes.
Can I just say the original version of that before Yoko Kanno re-recorded it?
Yeah.
Sounds a lot better.
It sounds better, right? There's a scratchiness to it, like it's on vinyl.
But it's not even that. It's just the new version feels like there's no magic to it. It feels like she had time to reproduce it.
Where was this metaphor half an hour ago?
I mean, no. The new version has got no heart. There's no kick to it. Yeah. The percussions are all there. That great fucking saxophone solo comes in blaring. That scream comes in. But it still sounds too. It sounds like she took the third perfect take.
It's the soundtrack of Theseus. You've re-put all these pieces together again, and it doesn't quite.
Is it
fit.
even the same? Yeah.
Yeah. When you sent me the making of it, and it's like she's jiving. There's a making of the soundtrack, and she's jiving away in front of everybody, and it's like that room was like, This is not the room they recorded in originally. The room they recorded in originally probably had like flaky soundproofing on the wall.
It did not
There was
have
a
that.
puke
It was somebody's
stain.
garage.
There was a,
Yeah.
no,
It didn't
no,
have
they,
that kind of
they would have
space
they,
between
would-
each
they
other.
would have done it. It definitely wouldn't have had that space because
Yeah.
if you've seen the making of the final Evangelion movies, that office is smaller than any of the offices I've ever worked in.
Yeah.
Like but working at software development companies, like this office was fit in the fucking server room. It was so small. They're making a multi-million-dollar anime in literally it's like the size of the toilet was in one of my last companies. Like it's literally just like 3 stalls across, and they're all crammed in there.
Right.
And they were in Japan when they were recording the original. It was like everyone's in separate rooms, but it's all like a tiny little place. And this is like there were one big area, so we can get the shots of everyone sitting together.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sound right. And you don't notice the end of every episode has the Real Folk Blues, which they play after a while, but it's going to be skipped because of the skip to next episode on Netflix. There's one episode where they don't play it in the anime, and it's where they change the credits because it's a poignant thing about a character who they've seen the same character with the same name and a similar outlook, but very different.
But it's a very different character in the
And this the credits, as the credits play, the camera just pans from the planet up to the stars and just keeps going. And it's a song, if you look on Spotify, it's called Spaceline.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's the one I talked to you about. Like when I first started listening, you can hear bars of it. I'm like, are they going to do Spaceline? It's like being at the fucking gig of your favorite band saying like, oh, they're going to do 1979, they're going to do 1979. It's like, they did 79 an hour ago and you're in the toilet. Fuck no! And they just kept doing that. And it's like, even that element of the anime was purposeful, where it's like, we're going to have the exact same credits except one episode. And the point there is to make you sit and think about what you just saw. And I was taking notes during this. There's different songs, different times all the way through it.
No. There's no time, Ian, to think about what you just saw because you have 5 seconds to make a decision as to whether or not you want to watch the next fucking episode.
Get in, loser. We're going to the next episode.
And that is that is symbolic of everything that this series is, right? It is Netflix cashing in on a property that they felt, oh look, this has got a giant fan base. Oh look, let's make a movie with The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot because they've got 400 million followers, right?
Let's make sure every single video on Twitter for the next 3 weeks has got nothing but Red Notice ads in front of them.
Exactly. And that is exactly what this is. And it's from that point of cynicism that, and I'm sure, like when I was doing those interviews, it felt like, I'm sure Andrew Nemec fucking loves the series and he's completely committed to this and all of that stuff, right? But at the same point, something got in the way. Whether it was commercialism, whether it was, I don't know, creative license.
Some dipshit producer,
whatever. It got in the way and the product just ends up being less than the anime, less than the sum of its parts, just less. It just
and to from steal from George Lucas, it's like poetry, it rhymes. It's like everything we're talking about this evening. We're talking about the stuff earlier as well. It's like some things you just gotta leave, or you do something completely different. Like if they'd done a Star Trek Discovery on this, I would have been all in. Do 1 or 2 episodes of the same, then do a remix, do an EDM episode, do a fucking Skrillex soundtrack episode. Do something completely different. But
keep the characters.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell the same fucking stories.
Yeah, or don't do it. That's the other thing, is just the certain things, like, again, if you ever get through it by here, it is, I was looking at the Wikipedia, says it's like consistently voted one of the top anime of all time. And it is a huge example of an artist's intent.
Exactly.
And this is an artist cleaning up the mess after someone else has and trying to make it work.
Yeah.
It's after the Lego has fallen off the desk and now you're trying to figure out which bit goes where.
Which bits goes where, yeah. Let us know your thoughts on Cowboy Bebop. Once again, you know how to reach out to us. Goggler MY are our social media feeds, at Goggler MY, podcast at Goggler MY, for Goggler.my for our email, and 012-524. It's late. I'm tired. Fuck it. You know how to get in touch with this. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Goggler Podcast.